Chapter 502. This couldn't be helped. Staying in a place like the City of Massacres for too long would cause one to be tainted with karma. It was a form of torture to one's mind and soul. Unlike Wang Feng, whose entire body had been tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, his thoughts were clear and unaffected. Wang Feng had only come to the City of Massacres after he had tempered his brain and sternum. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to take it if he continued killing like this. It might cause some problems to his mind. Other than that, Wang Feng also saw Hulayina a few times. However, other than the first day, Wang Feng didn't meet Hulayina. Hulayina won a lot of matches in the slaughterhouse, so it was impossible for her to meet Wang Feng. Wang Feng didn't compete every day. Instead, he chose to cultivate slowly, one step at a time. When he had nothing to do, he would go out of the city for a stroll. He could even watch some live porn for free. In fact, in terms of danger, the City of Massacres wasn't as dangerous as the extreme north to Wang Feng. This was because he couldn't use soul skills here. Wang Feng's soul skills were only a part of his strength. In comparison, the extreme north, especially the inner circle, was much more dangerous. However, the killing wasn't as intense as the City of Massacres. Slowly, a year passed. A year passed very quickly in the City of Massacres. However, it was a turning point for Wang Feng's Dark Angel Martial Soul. In a year, his Dark Angel Martial Soul had awakened 3 blood traces. On average, he would awaken 1 blood trace every 4 months. Until now, he had awakened a total of 4 blood traces. However, Wang Feng hadn't tested it yet, and he didn't know what kind of power it had. He didn't have a chance because the mysterious underworld spike had resolved everything. In this year, he went to the slaughterhouse about 6 times a month on average. In total, there were 72 matches. And in these 72 matches, Wang Feng didn't meet any enemy that could threaten him. The reason was simple. It was because Wang Feng's control of the mysterious underworld spike was increasing. In other words, Wang Feng spent most of his time in the City of Massacres cultivating the mysterious underworld spike apart from training his Dark Angel Martial Soul. In order to be able to fly on a sword one day, Wang Feng didn't hesitate to cultivate the mysterious underworld spike. Even his soul power had only increased by 2 ranks, reaching rank 55. The Massacre City's energy also leaned towards darkness. It needed to be purified by the meteoric tear before Wang Feng could absorb it. However, with Wang Feng's current cultivation speed, it was truly fast. In the past year, he had not meditated at all. He had merely been cultivating, allowing the energy of heaven and earth to be automatically absorbed into his body, and he had already advanced by 2 levels. If Wang Feng were to cultivate with all his might, it would at least double, or even more. This was the benefit of completing the full body tempering. The higher the level, the more obvious the benefits would be. Currently, Wang Feng's body was like a treasure trove. The more he dug, the more surprises he would find. In the 72 battles, the strongest person Wang Feng had met was a person who cultivated a darkness-attributed tool martial spirit. Unfortunately, his level wasn't high. He was only around level 60. In a place like the Massacre City, Wang Feng suspected that if he stayed for too long, his martial spirit would also lean towards the darkness attribute and undergo some sort of mutation. Because if there was such a mutation, then he would be like a fish in water in the City of Slaughter. His opponent, who possessed a darkness-type martial soul, was similar to this. His tool martial spirit was a pair of Philian blades. They were invisible and were extremely effective in killing people. Compared to Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike, they were much weaker. Compared to the mysterious underworld spike, which couldn't be used to kill people, they were also much weaker. Although the Philian blades could be invisible, they still had soul power undulations. After all, they were martial spirit. The mysterious underworld spike could be used to kill people by Wang Feng's spiritual power. It was very difficult to sense, so it was very effective against low-level soul masters. Even so, this Hylian blade martial spirit relied on the uniqueness of his martial spirit to win more than 40 battles in the massacre city. In the end, he was killed by Wang Feng. One had to know that there were at least a few soul sages who died at the hands of this Hylian blade martial spirit. One could only imagine how many people this Hylian blade martial spirit had killed with his martial spirit. This person was also known as the Hylian blade martial spirit. He was extremely famous in the massacre city. Other than that, Wang Feng didn't have much of an impression of his other opponents. On the contrary, Wang Feng had more of an impression of being surrounded and assassinated. Wang Feng remembered that after he finished participating in a tournament, he was surrounded by almost 300 people because of his growing reputation. This was extremely rare in the inner city. That day, the outside of the massacre city was stained with blood. The streets were filled with corpses and rivers of blood. But this wasn't the scariest thing. The scariest thing was that Wang Feng's body wasn't stained with blood. There weren't many corpses in a 50-meter radius around him. It was as if he was in a vacuum. The mysterious underworld spikes formed a dozen or so sharp blades that covered an area of 50 meters around them. Any soul cultivator that entered this area would be killed mercilessly. His moon-white robes were spotlessly clean on the streets that were like blooming hell. It was especially dazzling. All of the soul masters who saw this scene were completely stunned. That battle attracted a lot of people because it was too loud. Among them were Hu Liena, Tang San, the envoy sent by the King of Massacre, and many other powerful soul masters who had won more than 50 battles. Almost all of them watched the encirclement in a daze. The encirclement process was actually very simple and boring. Wang Feng stood quietly in the middle of the street as the crowd outside swarmed toward him. The 10 sharp blades were like a harvester, reaping everyone's lives. This continued for half an hour. Within a 50-meter radius, countless corpses were piled up. Even if there were some fish that escaped the net and managed to rush to Wang Feng's side, they were like zombies walking. They stumbled and fell to the ground in the end. Then, Wang Feng calmly walked out from the surrounding sea of corpses. He was unscathed, and his white robes were otherworldly. It was such a simple massacre, but it shocked countless people to the core. Because the contrast was too strong. More than 300 people died, but this white-clothed faceless man didn't suffer any injuries. There wasn't even a drop of blood on his body. In the crimson sea of corpses, that white-clothed man casually reaped everyone's lives. None of the spectators at the scene could do this. They were all deeply shocked. Even Tang San didn't think he could do this. Tang San was once surrounded by 100 people and suffered many injuries. He used countless hidden weapons before he walked out from the pile of corpses. He rested for 2 days before he recovered. After this encirclement, Wang Feng gained another title in the inner city, White-Clothed Death God. There were also people who called him the Faceless Death God. Being crowned with the title of God was not given by the city of Massacre. It was just a nickname in the inner city, but it was enough to prove how terrifying he was. End of this chapter. Chapter 503. This was because Wang Feng was like the Grim Reaper in every match or encirclement, quietly harvesting lives without any exceptions. And the 60 meters around Wang Feng was also known as the White-Clothed Hell. In the 72 matches, no one was able to break through the White-Clothed Hell and truly attack Wang Feng. Thus, in the Hell Slaughterhouse, as this year passed, there was a saying, as long as one could pass through the White-Clothed Hell, they would be able to defeat the White-Clothed Grim Reaper. In this year, Wang Feng actually had a very comfortable time. It was even more comfortable than when he was in the extreme north. Soul masters who couldn't use soul skills were simply as easy as chopping vegetables for him. Didn't I train so hard just to torture my enemies? Didn't I just want to pursue the pleasure of crushing my opponents? Wang Fengxin thought, the key is that I can still train at the same time. Especially in the capital of massacre, there was no burden. There was basically no need for any battle of wits, because there was no chance for a battle of wits. Without soul skills, he could only rely on normal attacks and various killing techniques. However, even after a year of killing, Wang Feng's aura still didn't change much. Logically speaking, after killing so many people, going through so many matches, and staying in the inner city for a long time, he would be infected with all kinds of killing intent and evil aura. His temperament would also become colder and more bloodthirsty. But Wang Feng didn't change at all. He was dressed in white, as if he was a lonely guest, and seemed incompatible with the capital of massacre. This was also one of the reasons why Wang Feng was called the white-clothed Grim Reaper. In legends, the Grim Reaper mostly wore a black robe, looking cold and lonely, exuding the aura of death. The white-clothed Grim Reaper was different. He just stood there, untainted, like a god in the world, but countless people in the inner city were infatuated with him. That elegant posture, that terrifying strength, that arrogant temperament, it was simply like a strong drug, stimulating countless women in the inner city. In this inner city world filled with fallen people, the white-clothed Grim Reaper was too unique. Such a strange expert had never appeared in the capital of massacre. But Wang Feng did know the reason. The killing intent and evil aura he was infected with were all absorbed by the dark angel martial soul. Coupled with his current physique, he wouldn't be affected by the massacre city at all. As long as the dark angel martial soul didn't possess him, he wouldn't experience any changes. On this day, Wang Feng went out again. With his strength and status, he naturally lived in an extremely good house. However, there were still two mysterious underworld spikes hanging outside the door, guarding it. It couldn't be helped. There were too many people who sent themselves to their deaths every day, especially at night. Many women in the inner city wanted to get close to Wang Feng and spend the night with him, the god of death in white. In the beginning, when night fell, they all stood outside Wang Feng's room and looked up. Some even directly rushed in. Wang Feng didn't even have a moment of peace while he was cultivating. Then, he controlled the sharp blade formed by the mysterious underworld spike and placed it outside the door. Whoever dared to take a step forward would die immediately. What kind of joke was this? Even among these women, there might be some who were relatively clean. But was Wang Feng that kind of person? Obviously not. Therefore, he guarded the two Xian Ming spikes outside the door as a deterrent. Whoever came would die. Who cares if you're a man or a woman? After walking out of the door, the smell of decay and depravity in the inner city didn't disappear. The visitors from the massacre city didn't decrease because of this, because the various crimes on the continent wouldn't stop. Familiar sounds of pleasure came to his ears. Wang Feng smiled. Although the mask covered his eyes and he couldn't see clearly. However, he could clearly sense the live sex palace that was playing out every day. It was no different from seeing with his eyes. In fact, it was even clearer. At the beginning, Wang Feng still had some feelings when he looked at it, but then the dark angel martial soul throbbed. The more he looked, the faster one of the blood traces on the dark angel martial soul evolved and appeared. This made Wang Feng think that it was some kind of F***King Weisswing martial soul. However, after looking for a long time, his interest decreased a lot. It was like watching too many movies, so he didn't feel anything. When Wang Feng walked out of the room, "The god of death in white is out." Someone seemed to cry out in surprise. Wang Feng casually glanced to the side. At the corner of the street, there was a man and a woman who were acting out a scene. The woman on the man seemed to feel the gaze of the god of death in white. Her face immediately flushed red. She raised her head and screamed in a high and excited voice. "Ah! It's the god of death in white. It feels so good." The man on the other side of the woman. "Bitch. F***ck, after doing it for so long, you don't feel anything like a zombie. After being looked at by him, you're so nervous that you directly threw him away?" The man was extremely angry, but he also felt deeply helpless. Wang Feng, sorry to disturb you. Wang Feng shook his head and directly walked towards the Hell's slaughterhouse in the distance. At the same time, he thought, could this be the legendary whoever you stare at will be High C? After resting for a few days and studying the Dark Angel Martial Soul, Wang Feng naturally continued to go to the Hell's slaughterhouse. However, when he was at the door, Wang Feng met two people. One was Hu Laina and the other was Xiao San. Wang Feng's footsteps paused slightly. He found that after the 10 victories, almost every battle had the figure of Xiao San and Hu Laina. Obviously, he had been noticed by them. Wang Feng would occasionally go and watch the battles between the two of them. Because Hu Laina's martial soul had mutated, not only was her physical fitness very strong, but she could also charm the enemy with her killing moves. Very few people could resist Hu Laina's attack. There was almost no situation like Xiao San, who cultivated the purple demon eyes to resist the charm. And that pair of eyes that could charm people's souls made Hu Laina also known as the Hell's emissary. She specialized in seducing people's souls. Not to mention Xiao San, who was now known as the Azura King in the Hell's slaughterhouse. With hidden weapons and various Tang sect martial skills, he was extremely destructive in both one-on-one and in groups. At present, his popularity in the slaughterhouse was second only to the God of Death in the slaughterhouse. Hu Laina had won 71 matches, only one match behind Wang Feng. Tang San had won 70 matches, only one match behind Hu Laina. However, Wang Feng and Tang San had caught up with them later. This was because the later the competition, the harder it was to arrange the schedule, because there were very few opponents to reach their level of victory. Often, it would take a few days to arrange a match. The inner city was actually very big. Wang Feng estimated that there were at least hundreds of thousands of people in this city. Or even more. In fact, there were many people who came to the slaughterhouse every day. Because the God of Death was too popular, there were naturally more people who came to watch. Many people did not come for anything else but to see what the God of Death in white looked like. In addition, there were also people who wanted to see if there was anyone who could rush out of the Hell in white and walk in front of the God of Death in white. Wang Feng and the two of them passed by each other. God of Death in white. At this time, Tang San suddenly called out to Wang Feng. Your opponent today is very special. You may be in danger. End of chapter. Chapter 504. Wang Feng was stunned. He thought that Tang San had recognized him. Otherwise, why would he remind him? But Tang San continued to say, You and I are similar in character. You're quite similar to a friend of mine. I hope you can survive. Even if you're going to lose, it'll be at my hands. After Tang San came to the massacre city, he rarely spoke or communicated with others. This was one of the few times that Tang San took the initiative to speak. Because this white-clothed Grim Reaper did remind Tang San of 9-1 Open and Wang Feng. Wang Feng was speechless. Xiao San seems to be very obsessed with me. Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh in his heart. To be precise, it's an opponent called Shadowless Assassin. White-clothed Grim Reaper, this person is very powerful. He may not be attacked by you. At this time, Hu Laina suddenly spoke. Wang Feng stopped in his tracks. Wang Feng had heard of Shadowless Assassin. He was a powerhouse who came in from the outside half a year ago. What was even more frightening was that Shadowless had already won 50 matches in just half a year. He even asked to take the initiative to participate in the Fallen Ones competition. He was a very famous powerhouse. He was also very good at killing people. He had very high killing skills and had very special abilities. However, Wang Feng was not very interested in these. He usually just watched the competition occasionally. Wang Feng looked at Hu Laina. A year ago, he ignored Hu Laina. In the past year, Hu Laina did not ask for a rebuff from him. Instead, she silently watched the competition while cultivating herself. At this time, hearing what the two said, Wang Feng was a little interested. Seeing Wang Feng walk into the massacre city, Hulayina took the lead to follow. The name of the white-clothed Grim Reaper could attract countless people in the inner city, and they were all women. Although Hulayina was not as exaggerated as those flirtatious bitches, she was indeed a little curious. In addition to curiosity, Hulayina only admired him. She really admired him. What Hulayina admired most was that his temperament had not changed at all after staying in the massacre city for a year. That white robe in the massacre city was like a white flower that was not stained by the mud. It was so eye-catching and addictive. As for Hulayina herself, even though she often chatted with the stars in her skull to relieve boredom, her temperament had undergone a huge change. Although her appearance was still peerlessly beautiful, the seductive intent in her eyes when she was not fighting was like 10,000-year-old ice. Not to mention seductive, just looking at her would freeze you to death. Her temperament was also filled with killing intent. Sometimes he couldn't control himself and even wanted to go on a killing spree. Fortunately, there was Star, but because Star only had a wisp of soul consciousness left, her memories were very vague. Hulayina did not know what Star had experienced. Therefore, this was what attracted Hulayina, or perhaps all women, to this white-clothed god of death. Of course, the white-clothed death god's powerful strength and the terrifying white-clothed hell had its reasons as well. As Tang San watched Hulayina walk into the hell-killing field, his eyes turned slightly. As for Hulayina of the Golden Generation, his father had once said that she was the most talented and the most terrifying one. In fact, Tang San also thought so after watching many of Hulayina's battles over the past year. This girl was very strong. Tang San asked himself, if he did not have the Tang sect's martial arts and hidden weapons, he would not be Hulayina's opponent now. Moreover, she, a girl, could actually become the Hell Emissary in this hell-killing field with amazing battle records. Tang San was very clear on how difficult this was. After thinking for a while, Tang San followed her in. At this time, there were already tens of thousands of spectators in the hell-killing field. Most of them were women. Most of them were looking at the white-clothed god of death on the stage with wolf-like eyes. Of course, there were also about 40% of the men who were looking at the arena below with bloodthirsty eyes. Even the spectator stands were also very chaotic. Some were eating, some were performing live erotic scenes, and there were also men and men at the same time. On the rooftop of the hell-killing field, there was a room in the sky. At this time, a cold voice was heard from inside. "Great King, I have investigated clearly. This white-clothed god of death came from the north. He learned about our killing field from an old beggar. He doesn't seem to have any background. Moreover, he completely rejected the invitation of our killing field. He seems to have come here only to cultivate." In the room, there was a huge glass window in front. Because it was in midair, the scene below could be seen. There were only two people in the room. One of the silhouettes seemed to be shrouded in layers of black fog. His figure was extremely tall, and at this moment, he was sitting boldly on a wide skeleton chair. Instead, the one who spoke was another person. That cold female voice belonged to another black-clothed woman with a voluptuous figure. "Rejected." The tall man who was called King said coldly. "Yes. Based on the current situation, this white-clothed god of death's strength may be the strongest intruder in the history of our killing field. According to the analysis, he must have hidden part of his strength, because the strength he has shown so far is only those black sharp blades that are controlled by some unknown method. He used these black sharp blades to kill people silently." The beautiful woman held a document and continued, "As for the other two people, the Azura King and the Hell's Messenger, they were thrown in by the two gods of death. We can't provoke the two gods of death, so we can only let nature take its course, although the killing field was controlled by the killing field. Once one passed the Hell's path, It meant that one could use soul skills in the killing field and display their true strength. They were also known as the real gods of death. In the history of the killing field, only a few gods of death had been born. Every god of death was a terrifying existence. Even the killing field didn't dare to provoke them. Yes. The killing field nodded lightly. It wasn't difficult for them to find out this information. Moreover, the Azura King and the Hell's Messenger were thrown in by the two gods of death. One of them even visited the killing field a month ago. Therefore, the killing field wouldn't act rashly against Tang San and Hulaina. But this white-clothed god of death had no background. For the killing field, the martial spirit palace and the two empires can't threaten us. The killing field said indifferently, but a god of death can. This white-clothed god of death is indeed a strong expert. It's just a matter of time for him to win 100 battles, although he may not be able to pass the Hell's Path. But if he passes it and becomes a god of death, he will be a huge threat to our killing field. So, I have arranged an opponent for this white-clothed god of death today. The beautiful woman laughed softly. I hope he can survive. P.S. There are 4 more chapters in the evening. This chapter ends. Chapter 505. On the arena. The 10 of them had finished their preparations and were scattered around the arena. Wang Feng could also sense the shadowless assassin. It was easy to identify him. Through his senses, Wang Feng could sense the person with the weakest aura. He was dressed in black, and his face was a little pale. If he was known as the shadowless assassin, then he should be the one with the weakest aura. His aura was indeed very weak. With Wang Feng's current senses, he could only sense a trace of his aura. Apart from him, the other 9 people were all soul kings above rank 60. There were even 2 soul sages. The shadowless assassin was one of the 2 soul sages. An agility-type soul sage? Wang Fengxin was a little surprised. Normally, agility-type soul sages would be very fast even if they didn't use soul skills and only used their soul power. These soul sages were usually very strong among their peers. As the saying went, there was no speed that couldn't be defeated. Without soul skills, everyone was fighting with their bare hands. The faster one was, the more helpless one would be. Wang Feng used the same principle to kill people. When he used his spiritual intent to control the arrows, he wasn't any slower than when he threw them out. Furthermore, because he used his spiritual intent to control the arrows, they were very agile. They wouldn't become slower and slower. It wasn't like using soul power to control the arrows. It was very troublesome to make them turn. However, it wasn't impossible to dodge them. In fact, agility-type soul sages could dodge them. When the 300 people attacked Wang Feng, there were 1 or 2 agility-type soul sages who took the opportunity to dodge Wang Feng's Xianming spike. Because they managed to dodge most of the attacks, they managed to charge past the white-clothed hell and get close to Wang Feng. However, it was a pity that they didn't last until the end. Just 1 agility-type soul sage. How can he be a threat to me? Wang Fengxin said there should be something special about him. At this moment, the competition started. When the competition started, the other 9 people all rushed towards Wang Feng, apart from comforting Shadowless. Those who dared to participate in the competition with the white-clothed death god were obviously extraordinary. Among them, some had only heard of his name and were unconvinced. They wanted to kill the white-clothed death god in exchange for his reputation. There were also those who were interested in killing and wanted to kill strong people. Those who were able to reach this stage had all won dozens of matches. They had participated in the competition to vent their desire to kill. As the strong, slaughtering the weak was completely unsatisfying to them. He needed to slaughter even more powerful experts. Only then would they be able to satisfy their bloodlust. Therefore, their first target was naturally the strongest white-clothed Grim Reaper. However, although these people were very powerful, they were all very powerful. But in front of Wang Feng, it was still not enough. After 3 years of non-stop training with the mysterious underworld spike, Wang Feng was now able to kill even a rank 70 soul sage without using any soul skills. He could kill them instantly. Even a rank 80 soul Douluo would be in danger of dying under the merciless attacks of 10 mysterious underworld spike. The white-robed hell wasn't just a bluff from the people of the inner city. 10 pitch-black sharp blades less than half a meter long flew out from Wang Feng's body and started to spin in the air. Light and shadow scattered in all directions. The sharp, cold light exuded the aura of death. The leader of the group was an extremely sturdy bearded man. His martial spirit was a beast martial spirit, which had the strongest defensive power. His physique was also the strongest among the group. When a beast martial spirit was possessed by a martial spirit in the killing field, its physique would be greatly enhanced. Even if it didn't use any soul skills, it would still be very strong. On the other hand, if it was a tool martial spirit, its physique would definitely be inferior to a tool martial spirit even though it had more weapons. Both had their advantages and disadvantages. Whoosh! At the same time, enemies from all directions charged towards Wang Feng. There was even a rare flying-type soul master. After using martial spirit possession, a pair of light wings grew from his back. He flew in the air in an attempt to avoid the white-robed hell. However, this was obviously too naive. The 60-meter radius didn't only include the ground. It also included the air. This flying-type soul master was actually very fast. His martial soul was a falcon-type martial soul that was extremely fast in the sky. Even without using any soul skills, his speed was still extremely fast. Unfortunately, the mysterious underworld spike was even faster. Furthermore, the sharp blades formed by Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike weren't simple blades. There were 3 sharp grooves on them. If they hit, they would cause a lot of damage. 10 sharp blades flashed at the speed of a cold light, and attacked the 8 people who were charging at him. Whoosh! 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 Instantly, 4 of the weaker fallen ones were hit in the vital parts by the sharp blade. Even if they didn't hit their vital parts, the sharp blades would change directions and continue to attack these fallen ones. It was very difficult to defend against them. Even if they could defend against 1 or 2 attacks, these sharp blades would attack from all directions. This required fine control of one's spiritual power. This wasn't something that could be done simply by using a martial spirit tool to kill people. It also required multiple uses. With Wang Feng's current spiritual power, it was extremely easy for him to split his spiritual power into multiple uses. In Wang Feng's mind, the positions of these 9 people had already formed a 3-dimensional image in his mind. His mind could even analyze their martial souls and strength. How would they block his attacks? How would they dodge? Once they dodged, where would the next attack strike from? Before the competition started, Wang Feng had already started to calculate all of these when he sensed the 9 people. And when 8 of them rushed towards him, from the moment they moved, Wang Feng's brain was like a calculator. It began to calculate the movement trajectories of the 8 people, analyzing their speed and from which direction the sharp blade should attack from. After the analysis was completed in an instant, the sharp blades formed by the mysterious dark spike would attack according to the calculated possibilities, using a martial spirit tool to kill people in one strike. This seemed cool, but Wang Feng didn't know how much training he had to go through to be able to do it. Of course, this was all thanks to his brain that had been tempered by the karmic fire. The sharp blade emitted a bloodthirsty light in the air, and in just a few breaths, it had killed 4 fallen ones. Every time the cold light flashed, it was like a dancing butterfly, and it was difficult for the 2 to detect its trajectory. In the blink of an eye, one could see several fatal wounds appear on the body of a fallen one. Every wound seemed to have been precisely calculated. It was like a piece of art. In other words, this massacre was a piece of art. The 8 powerhouses charged towards Wang Feng. However, when they entered the death net that Wang Feng weaved with his sharp blades, They fell one by one. They fell in the white-clothed hell that had a radius of 50 meters. The beast martial soul battle soul master who charged first wanted to grab the sharp blade. However, the sharpness of the blade was beyond his imagination. Even though his martial soul was a tortoise-type martial soul with very strong defense and had a thick layer of scales on his entire hand was cut off by the sharp blade in an instant. End of chapter. Chapter 506. You want to block the mysterious dark spike with your physical body with all kinds of defensive soul skills? Who are you looking down on? Everyone present had seen the terrifying attack of the white-clothed Grim Reaper many times, but every time they saw this magical attack method, they were amazed. Because no one could do it. Because of this, the white-clothed Grim Reaper attracted countless people in the inner city. He's getting more skilled, Tang San thought to himself. This white-clothed Grim Reaper is growing very fast. He saw most of the matches of the white-clothed Grim Reaper clearly. Unlike the spectators who came to watch after the white-clothed Grim Reaper became famous in the inner city. As early as a year ago, Tang San had calculated the number of sharp blades that the opponent could control, the range, the speed, and the attack trajectory. Compared to a year ago, Tang San suddenly realized that the growth of the white-clothed Grim Reaper was terrifying. The number of sharp blades that the opponent could control had doubled, the attack range had doubled, and the speed was faster. The most terrifying attack trajectory was more and more unpredictable. There was no trace of it at all. This made many people who wanted to deal with the white-clothed Grim Reaper unable to find a way to deal with him because the opponent's attack could not be dodged at all. In just a year, the opponent's cultivation growth made Tang San feel inferior. Tang San sometimes tried to use spiritual manipulation, but he found that it was almost impossible to do it. Even if he could do it, compared to the opponent who could kill with a weapon, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. However, that shadowless assassin has not made a move yet. Based on my experience of watching him in a few matches, I'm afraid his ability should be the best to restrain the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Tang San thought to himself, yes. Since the start of the match, the black-robed shadowless assassin had not made a move. It was as if he was waiting for something. It was only when Wang Feng finished off all 8 of them that the shadowless assassin laughed. "Thank you for helping me finish off these 8 people," he said. Wang Feng. "Trying to show off in front of me?" Wang Feng laughed. This shadowless assassin. But laughing was one thing, this guy was still very cautious. This was because the shadowless assassin had already retreated 50 meters away. Once the sharp blade passed this distance, Wang Feng's control over the sharp blade would be greatly reduced. Its speed, agility, and so on would all be greatly reduced, making it very easy to dodge. Therefore, Wang Feng usually only controlled the area within 50 meters of himself. This shadowless assassin had clearly done his homework. Logically speaking, for someone as strong as me, I don't want to come here, because it's too unfair to you all. Shadowless assassin shrugged and said with a relaxed smile. Wang Feng. However, someone told me that a white-clothed Grim Reaper has appeared here. He seems to be very powerful. That's why I came. Shadowless assassin suddenly said seriously, "You still have some hidden strength, don't you? How about this, I suggest you take them all out, or you won't have another chance." Wang Feng. The shadowless assassin seemed to have said everything he wanted to say. But as soon as shadowless assassin finished speaking, in an instant, he charged at Wang Feng. Very soon. This was the fastest soul master Wang Feng had seen this year. Furthermore, he hadn't even used martial spirit possession. There weren't any soul power undulations either. This meant that this was his original speed. He was as fast as a rank 70 agility type soul sage. If his physical speed was comparable to a rank 70 soul sage, this meant that this shadowless assassin's soul power rank was very high. His martial soul must be very strong, and he must have been very good at tempering himself. Wang Feng frowned slightly. This speed was still acceptable, but it wasn't realistic for him to dodge the sharp blades formed by the mysterious underworld spike. But it was no wonder that he was able to achieve such results in half a year. He was indeed very strong. Furthermore, this fellow waited for the 8 of them to finish off before he started to show off. In reality, he had to face the attacks of 10 mysterious underworld spikes. He was simply courting death. Why did so many people surround and attack Wang Feng back then? It was because they knew how the white-clothed Grim Reaper attacked. They wanted to use their numbers to kill him, because the white-clothed Grim Reaper could only control a few sharp blades. But it was a pity that they underestimated the lethality of the sharp blade. Now that there were 10 sharp blades, no one would be able to block them. This was because the 10 sharp blades were attacking from all directions. Tang San saw this scene. Even if he had the ghost shadow perplexing track, he wouldn't be able to dodge 10 sharp blades that were attacking him from all directions. Furthermore, the angles were extremely tricky. But in the next moment, the shadowless assassin's legs suddenly flashed, and he disappeared from where he was. He suddenly disappeared. It was a teleportation-type soul skill. Countless people were stunned when they saw this scene. A soul master's soul skills couldn't be used in the capital of Massacre. There was only one reason why the other party could suddenly disappear. It was a soul bone. Following the disappearance of the shadowless assassin, the 10 sharp blades suddenly missed. Even in the capital of Slaughter, very few fallen ones possessed such an extremely rare item. But once one had a soul bone, it was equivalent to having an additional skill in the Massacre Hell. Furthermore, soul bones had other abilities, and weren't considered soul skills. This shadowless assassin obviously had a leg soul bone, which was why he was so fast. Furthermore, he had a teleportation-type soul skill. It was indeed somewhat effective against sharp blades that could attack from all directions. It was better to say that teleportation-type soul skills were very rare, and they were very effective against any type of attack. At this moment, they were indeed able to display their greatest effect. With such speed and a teleportation-type soul skill, the shadowless assassin was able to achieve such results. But, was it just teleportation? Wang Feng frowned slightly. The other party's aura had disappeared. He thought of the Umbra Academy that he met during the advancement round of the Soul Master Tournament. They had all sorts of concealment abilities, and they could use various methods to conceal their auras. This shadowless assassin was somewhat similar. His ability might not be limited to teleportation. At this moment, Wang Fengxin moved, and the shadowless assassin's figure appeared again 30 meters away. Following that, the shadowless assassin continued to attack Wang Feng. Evidently, the shadowless assassin's teleportation range wasn't very far, only 10 meters or so. But this was enough, and it meant that he could completely dodge Wang Feng's mysterious underworld spike. Even if the mysterious underworld spike attacked him again, it would be too late. Furthermore, the shadowless assassin hadn't even appeared for 2 seconds. Within 2 seconds, he had already covered more than 20 meters. Following that, he teleported again. He wasn't affected by the mysterious underworld spike at all. Many spectators felt their hearts tighten when they saw this scene. This was because it was obvious that the next time the shadowless assassin appeared, he would definitely deal a fatal blow to the white-clothed Reaper. He might be the first person to charge out of the white-clothed hell. His speed was comparable to the wind, and his powerful teleportation soul skill allowed him to perfectly dodge the white-clothed Reaper's attack with 2 teleportations. The strength of his soul bone was completely displayed at this moment. End of chapter. Chapter 507. Tang San had absorbed the spiritual wisdom skull. Wang Feng had given it to them when they were in the pontiff's palace. Over the past year, Tang San had also used the power of the soul bone once. It had to be said that the power of the soul bone was cheating in the slaughterhouse. After all, he had one more soul skill than others. Even the trashiest soul skill was much stronger. Tang San felt that the power of the soul bone was too strong. Hence, he would not use it unless something unexpected happened. He would only use his own strength to kill. Only in this way could he achieve the effect of training. When Wang Feng came, he had considered whether he should not use the power of the soul bone. However, after thinking about it, he realized that the mysterious underworld spike might be his weakest attack. Wang Feng was very strong even though he was only at the first tier. Hence, he did not want to use it. Do you think I'm just trying to act cool because I'm lazy? No, I'm too strong. In the slaughterhouse, Wang Feng's 2 years of training in the extreme north, his rank 55 soul power, and his body was tempered by the red lotus karmic fire. His physique was terrifyingly strong. Of course, he was still much weaker than a titled Douluo. However, Wang Feng's spiritual senses were too strong. With such spiritual senses, he could deal with any attack. Once he attacked, he was even more powerful than using a weapon to kill people. Hence, Wang Feng only used the mysterious underworld spike to kill people in the slaughterhouse. On one hand, he wanted to cultivate the power of the mysterious underworld spike. On the other hand, Wang Feng could not find a weaker attack. Do you think I'm going to stand here and let you attack me? Right now, the white-clothed hell has been broken. Can the white-clothed death god still stand in the slaughterhouse? Countless people couldn't help but have a question mark in their minds. This was because to all the spectators, the white-clothed reaper's strongest move was to control the sharp blades to kill people and form a white-clothed hell with a radius of 50 meters around him. Hence, there was a saying that one could defeat the white-clothed death god as long as they could break through the white-clothed hell. Will he lose? Huliana's heart tightened slightly. From the first day that this mysterious white-clothed death god had come to the capital of massacre, he had displayed his strength without any scruples. In the following year, he had used this mysterious method to crush the entire hellish slaughterhouse. But now, he finally met his match. Huliana had some understanding of Shadowless Assassin. After all, he had achieved 50 victories in half a year. He was fortunate enough to have seen it once, but due to the other party's exaggerated speed, he guessed that the other party also had a soul bone. But he didn't expect him to have a godly skill like teleportation, and from the looks of it, he could use it continuously. Generally speaking, if a teleportation skill was too powerful, it would be difficult to use it again after using it. Wang Feng's soul-devouring blood wings teleportation was the same. Once he used it, he would need some time before he could use it again. For him to be able to teleport again in less than 2 seconds, there could only be a limit to the number of times he could use it. It looked like it could only be used 3 to 5 times a day. But it was enough. At this moment, the Shadowless Assassin appeared once more. He appeared behind Wang Feng, less than 10 centimeters away from him. A dagger dyed in green light had appeared in his hand at some unknown time. It was aimed at Wang Feng's neck. Seeing this, the originally quiet killing field instantly became even quieter. This was the only person they had ever seen who could get so close to the white-clothed death god. He didn't even have the chance to dodge. The next moment, Wang Feng shook his head and sighed softly. Why do you have to force me to make a move? After saying that, Wang Feng threw a punch. The dagger was only 1 centimeter away from Wang Feng's neck. Boom! This punch directly hit the Shadowless Assassin's chest. This punch was extremely fast, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart exploded in the void. A cracking sound was heard. It was the sound of the Shadowless Assassin's chest shattering. The shattered sternum even pierced through the Shadowless Assassin's internal organs. The Shadowless Assassin was directly sent flying, drawing a parabola in the air and landing among the 8 people who were already dead. Thud! The Shadowless Assassin crashed heavily on the ground and coughed up a lot of blood, mixed with many pieces of his internal organs. In an instant, the entire field was silent. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Isn't this too strong? Teleporting in front of you and still being able to react so quickly, the power of this punch is even stronger than those sharp blades, okay? The attacks of the sharp blades were more aimed at the vital parts of the enemy, such as the neck, the brain, the heart, and other vital parts. How could it be as terrifying as this punch? Clearly, the strength that the white-clothed death god had displayed had completely stunned everyone. How strong is this body? Even Tang San and Hu Laiina were so shocked that they were speechless. In the room in midair, the King of Massacre and the beautiful lady were also silent. The black-armored knight, Scott, fought with the white-clothed death god when he came in. He told me that the white-clothed death god's body is very strong too. However, I thought that he would at most have the strength of a rank 60 soul master's body. I thought that he would use some other hidden strength, but I didn't expect it to be such pure physical strength. The beautiful lady's eyes were filled with shock. King, my estimation was wrong. This person's strongest point is his physical strength, at least comparable to a soul Douluo, or even stronger. Even a soul Douluo might not be able to react in time just now. Without using his martial soul or soul power, he has such terrifying strength. This white-clothed death god, the King of Massacre, was also silent. Even he thought that the white-clothed death god's mysterious method of killing people with his weapon should be his strongest ability. Even if he had hidden his strength, he should have other methods, such as soul bones. However, he didn't expect the white-clothed death god's body to be so strong. It was precisely because of this preconceived notion that the King of Massacre, as well as many of the spectators below, were astonished by the strength displayed by the white-clothed death god. However, at this moment, the shadowless assassin, who was sent flying by the punch, started laughing in the pool of blood. Seeing this, many of the spectators were stunned. Following this, they saw a terrifying scene. The blood of the 8 people on the ground suddenly surged into the shadowless assassin's body. Good. Very strong. The city of Massacre hasn't had a strong person like you for a long time. The shadowless assassin slowly stood up. As he was sent flying into the pool of blood, his body was covered in blood. However, the blood quickly disappeared from the shadowless assassin's body. It was as if it had been absorbed. End of chapter. Chapter 508. Rumors can't be trusted. The shadowless assassin shook his head. He didn't seem to care. However, you can make me use my martial soul. That's enough to prove your abilities. I'm sorry, but you'd better not treat me as a human. Wang Feng was speechless. Why is this shadowless assassin even more pretentious than me? Wang Fengxin was puzzled. My martial soul is called Blood Shadow. The shadowless assassin smiled. It's my own shadow, even though I can't use soul skills. Although I can't use soul techniques, my martial soul has a special ability. It can absorb the strength of blood. It can also absorb 1/5 of the blood's owner's physical abilities. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Martial souls indeed had innate abilities. For example, Little Three's clear sky hammer possessed frightening offensive strength. It was indestructible. Once it struck, the enemy would be flattened. For example, Hu Laiina's martial soul possessed a bewitching ability. It also possessed powerful self-healing abilities. These were the martial soul's innate abilities. They weren't soul skills. Every form of Wang Feng's Green Lotus possessed its own abilities. This shadowless assassin's martial soul, Blood Shadow, could be said to be extremely powerful. It could absorb the strength of blood and absorb 1/10 of the blood's owner's abilities. Although it was only 1/10, if it was 1/10 of a titled Douluo's abilities, how frightening would that be? Once he attacked an enemy and was stained with their blood, he would possess 1/10 of their abilities. Such an ability was very frightening whether it was in a one-on-one fight or in a group. Right now, the shadowless assassin had absorbed 8 people's abilities. Each of them was providing 1/10 of his strength. 8 people added together was a frightening number. The shadowless assassin's aura was becoming stronger at a visible speed. He was extremely powerful. In fact, his body was also expanding. That's why I have to thank you for killing these 8 people for me. The shadowless assassin laughed. After he finished speaking, the shadowless assassin attacked Wang Feng again. This time, the shadowless assassin's speed had reached a frightening level after being possessed by his martial soul. Even many soul sages could only see an afterimage. They couldn't see his trajectory at all. Wang Feng, the shadowless assassin, was around rank 79. However, his speed had already surpassed that of a rank 80 soul Douluo. Wang Feng frowned slightly. This shadowless assassin was quite strong. Just his blood shadow martial soul alone was enough to be compared to the top martial souls on the continent. However, this martial spirit had a fatal flaw. It could also be said that it was a very obvious flaw. This weakness meant that Wang Feng didn't even need to make a move before the other party would automatically die. At this moment, the shadowless assassin's speed was not inferior to Wang Feng's in first gear. He had absorbed a fifth of each of the 8 people's strength. This added up to an extremely terrifying increase in power. At this level, he could completely dodge the Dark Nether Spike's attack. After all, Wang Feng believed that while the mysterious underworld spike was very powerful, it was only suitable for dealing with low-level soul cultivators. In other words, soul cultivators under the rank of 70 would be killed in an instant in the slaughterhouse. If he could use soul skills, he would only be able to insta-kill soul masters below rank 60. The actual situation would depend on the opponent's martial soul. Against mid-level and high-level enemies, such as those above rank 70, the mysterious underworld spike's effectiveness would be greatly reduced. This was especially true for soul masters above rank 80. If they were an agility-type soul master, they would be able to dodge Wang Feng's imperial armament with ease. Therefore, Wang Feng couldn't use the mysterious underworld spike against the shadowless assassin. Even if the shadowless assassin couldn't use his teleportation soul skills, he couldn't attack him. Wang Feng quietly stood where he was and watched as the shadowless assassin appeared beside him in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Wang Feng tilted his body slightly and pretended to dodge. However, the shadowless assassin's dagger suddenly changed direction. It seemed to have a mechanism as it cut Wang Feng's arm. The shadowless assassin's dagger wasn't an ordinary item. It was probably a godly weapon made from some rare material. After one strike, it actually left a faint wound on Wang Feng's arm. It was a very faint wound that was as thin as a strand of hair. You can dodge it so easily. It seems like your speed and strength aren't inferior to mine. One strike and one retreat. The shadowless assassin didn't attack Wang Feng's vitals, but he didn't seem to want to continue attacking. He quickly pulled away and laughed. What a pity! You're still one move behind me. Even though I didn't attack your vitals, I was still injured. Your body is also very strong. Even my Godslayer blade can only leave a strand of hair on your skin. As he spoke, the shadowless assassin suddenly laughed. But now I can absorb the power in your blood. I'll have a fifth of your strength. You won't have any chance with my next attack. When they heard this, many of the spectators sucked in a deep breath. The shadowless assassin was so strong that it was unreasonable. If they fought, who could stop him? As long as he was injured, the shadowless assassin would absorb the power in his blood and gain a fifth of his strength? This person is very strong. Tang San sighed deeply. Even though there were many restrictions in the slaughterhouse, there were still many powerful individuals. At this point in the competition, the spectators were already deeply shocked. However, in the end, the shadowless assassin showed a lot of strength, which was really shocking. Especially in a 10-person battle like this, once the shadowless assassin martial soul was used, he only needed to lightly scratch his opponent's skin and he would instantly become stronger. The dagger in his hand is also not simple. Hulaina looked at the dagger in the shadowless assassin's hand. Obviously, with the shadowless assassin's strength, he needed a divine weapon that could break his opponent's defense. That way, he could unleash the full power of the shadowless assassin martial soul. Now, prepare to die. The shadowless assassin's eyes were bloodthirsty. He licked the blood on the dagger. The shadowless assassin's martial soul was suddenly released to absorb the power in the blood. However, at this moment, the white-clothed Grim Reaper suddenly spoke. When I was dodging just now, I could have attacked you. Do you know why I didn't? Because you're already dead. After that, the shadowless assassin's body seemed to be hit by a terrifying force. Boom! It exploded. In an instant, the whole place was dead silent. Chapter 509. The sudden explosion caused the entire audience to fall silent. Everyone looked at the shadowless assassin who had suddenly exploded on stage with astonishment. Blood fog covered everyone's vision. It had disappeared. The shadowless assassin's life aura had disappeared. The moment the white-clothed death god landed, the shadowless assassin exploded. He didn't even have time to unleash his final attack. He was gone just like that? What kind of attack was that? Deciding life and death with a single sentence? Killing with a single sentence? Wasn't that too fake? Many of the people present were dumbfounded. Was the white-clothed Grim Reaper that powerful? Was he really the Hell's Death God? He could kill someone with a single sentence? Only a true god would have such strength, right? Only a few people at the scene could vaguely guess what was going on. Wang Feng stood quietly on the stage. The shadowless assassin's blood shadow was undeniably strong. As long as he could attack his enemy, he would be able to obtain 1/5 of his enemy's strength. It was the same even for titled Doulu. What a strong martial soul! However, no martial soul was perfect, no matter how strong it was. There were always flaws. For example, Wang Feng's chaotic green lotus could be very strong in every form. However, the flaw was that he couldn't use all of them at the same time to attack his enemy. He could only use one form to fight. Pangu's axe was too taxing on his body and soul power. If he wasn't careful, he would be killed. Of course, these flaws weren't worth mentioning compared to the strength of his martial soul. However, since there were flaws, there were ways to overcome them. If Wang Feng dared to switch forms during a fight with a titled Douluo, he would be easily attacked. It was very dangerous. The shadowless assassin's blood shadow also had a very obvious flaw. There was a limit to how much strength it could absorb. The blood shadow could absorb the strength in the enemy's blood. Even titled Douluo couldn't avoid it. In fact, 1/5 of a titled Douluo's strength could cause the shadowless assassin to explode. This was because the shadowless assassin was only a soul sage. For a soul sage to obtain 1/5 of a titled Douluo's strength? It was very difficult. Furthermore, he could only absorb 1/5 of his opponent's strength. Wang Feng's current physical strength couldn't compare to a titled Douluo's, but his body's quality was much stronger than a titled Douluo's. After being tempered by the red lotus karmic fire, Wang Feng's body was a treasure trove. It was still waiting for Wang Feng slowly uncover its abilities. If a thief wanted to steal something from his treasure trove, why didn't he take a look at his own strength and see if he could bear the weight of the treasure trove? If the shadowless assassin hadn't absorbed the blood of those 8 people, it would have been dead. However, the shadowless assassin had already absorbed the blood of the 8 people before it. Those 8 people were not weak. One was a soul sage, and the other 7 were soul emperors. Even though it was only 1/5 of the shadowless assassin's power, it was still comparable to that of a soul Douluo with so many enhancements. Now, it had absorbed the power of Wang Feng's blood. His physical body couldn't withstand such a huge amount of power. Any form of energy absorption was built on the foundation of one's own strength. Clearly, the shadowless assassin had not expected Wang Feng's body to be so powerful. Wang Feng, who looked like he was only level 55. Shadowless Assassin would never have guessed that Wang Feng was so powerful. Wang Feng didn't even try to attack the Shadowless Assassin because he knew this fatal flaw. He touched his wand. It had completely disappeared. It was as smooth as jade. Wang Feng walked to where the Shadowless Assassin had exploded. He picked up the dagger and focused. This dagger shouldn't be simple. It can actually cut through my skin. It was icy cold to the touch, and faintly carried a murderous intent that could make one go mad. Evidently, this dagger wasn't simple. It should be a weapon forged from some special material. Although Wang Feng couldn't use it, he could use the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine it in the future. He could restore its original material or use it for other purposes. Anyway, the other party was already dead. According to the rules of the slaughterhouse, everything that was left behind after the 9 of them died belonged to the victor. No one dared to say anything even if Wang Feng took it. Furthermore, at this moment, no one present could say anything. The white-clothed death god's abilities have exceeded my expectations. The Shadowless Assassin absorbed the strength of 8 people. Now that it has absorbed the white-clothed death god's strength, its body won't be able to take it. Tang San was secretly shocked. Of course, he could analyze it. In fact, many people could see it. It was just that they were still in a state of shock and hadn't recovered yet. As long as they recovered, they would be able to figure it out. The white-clothed death god has already seen through the Shadowless Assassin's weakness. He did it on purpose. Hulaina was shocked from a different perspective. Because this is the fastest way to get rid of the Shadowless Assassin. Otherwise, with the Shadowless Assassin absorbing the strength of 8 people, who knows how long it will take. After absorbing the strength of 8 people, the Shadowless Assassin was on par with Wang Feng. In terms of speed, it was slightly faster because it had the soul bone in its leg, which greatly increased its speed. If they really fought, if Wang Feng didn't use second gear, neither side would use soul skills. It would take a long time to fight. This person is too calm. At that moment, he can still see through the opponent's weakness. Hulaina muttered in her heart. The admiration in his heart increased by a few more points. It wasn't scary to be strong. The key was to be able to keep calm at all times. Hulaina asked herself as a spectator. It was reasonable to say that she could see more clearly. However, when the Shadowless Assassin used his martial soul, she couldn't see through the opponent's weakness so quickly. She thought that if she were to face such a situation, the only thing she could do would be to expose the power of her soul bone to fight against the opponent. She wouldn't think of such a way to get rid of the opponent effortlessly. In the battlefield, the white-clothed death god was not only strong, but his reaction was also very fast. The match was over. The white-clothed death god was still the white-clothed death god. That calm and elegant figure, that deep voice, and even stronger strength. In just a few words, the Shadowless Assassin, who had become famous for half a year, was annihilated. Invincible became the synonym of the white-clothed death god. Even the Azura King and Hell's Messenger, who had battle records that were not inferior to the white-clothed death god, couldn't be compared to the white-clothed death god. It seems that the Shadowless Assassin can't stop him. In the room, the King of Massacre's calm voice had a hint of killing intent. The gorgeous lady beside him had an ugly expression on her face. In order to deal with the white-clothed death god, they had arranged for the Shadowless Assassin. They were about to succeed in the end, but they didn't expect such a turn of events, although they knew the reason behind it. End of chapter. Chapter 510. King, should we find an opportunity for you to personally kill this white-clothed Grim Reaper? The beautiful lady said in a low voice, otherwise, if this goes on, forget about the Shura King and the Hell's Emissary. If there is another white-clothed Grim Reaper, they will really be able to pass Hell's Road. Or, should we arrange the Shura King and the Hell's Emissary to fight the white-clothed Grim Reaper and let them kill each other? Just as she finished speaking, the King of Massacre snorted coldly. The beautiful lady seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. She groaned and fell to the ground. Those two cannot be touched. Do you want the city of Massacre to be bathed in blood by the two Grim Reapers? We have already broken the rules of the Hell's slaughterhouse by arranging the shadowless assassin. If we deliberately arrange the Shura King and the Hell's emissary, it will be too obvious. The King of Massacre's cold voice slowly sounded. But King, you are the rules of the city of Massacre. You can change any rules. The beautiful lady wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said in a low voice. The King of Massacre slowly shook his head. No need. Let them be defeated and win. At that time, they will not be able to withstand the mental disorder caused by excessive killing. At the 100th battle, they will go crazy. Even if they do not go crazy, they will not be able to pass Hell's Road now. Since the birth of the previous Grim Reaper, Hell's Road has been strengthened many times. The possibility of passing is infinitely close to zero. This is the will of God. Hearing this, the gorgeous woman was stunned for a moment. She suddenly felt a little curious. Hell's Road was the biggest secret of the city of Massacre. Other than the King of Massacre, no one knew where this place was. No one knew how terrifying Hell's Road was. At this moment, after hearing the words of the great king, the beautiful lady was secretly looking forward to the three of them winning 100 battles and becoming the champion of the slaughterhouse. Then, they would enter Hell's Road. Time slowly passed. It was another day of competition. It was already the 82nd battle. A few months had passed. Wang Feng slowly walked out of the Hell's slaughterhouse. Speaking of which, it was interesting. Since the 72nd battle, the number of people who came to kill him did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Every battle had at least 50 people. They came one after another without fear of death. It was as if they wanted to be killed by Wang Feng. This strange behavior made Wang Feng guess what was going on. Wang Feng shook his head as he looked at the many thugs rushing out from the street. It only took a few minutes to finish off these people. As the pool of blood rolled on the ground, Wang Feng suddenly looked to the other side. Tang San was also standing in the distance, half supporting himself on the side of the street. There were dozens of corpses around him. Tang San did not suffer any injuries, but at this moment, his eyes were red, his whole body was surrounded by killing intent, and he was breathing heavily. He stumbled out of the room. I've killed too many people. The killing intent has seeped into my mind. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Not only him, but it seemed that Tang San and Hu Laiina would also be surrounded and killed. Moreover, after every match, many people would surround and kill him. They clearly knew that they were so strong, but their numbers didn't decrease. The consequence of this was that the more people they killed, the more nervous they would be. If there was a day when he could no longer hold on, his entire body would be controlled by the killing intent, and he would become a murderous killing machine with a fuzzy consciousness. There should be someone deliberately controlling him. Wang Fengxin was slightly shocked. No one was willing to die, not to mention charging towards them like this. Not long after Tang San left, Wang Feng saw Hu Laiina being surrounded and killed by dozens of people, about 50 to 60 of them. In the past year, Hu Laiina's level was close to 60. Her strength had indeed become stronger. However, Hu Laiina was not much better than Tang San. Wang Feng stayed at the entrance of the Hell killing field for a while, and saw Hu Laiina kill all those people. Her killing method was also very simple. She used charm and a short blade to directly kill the enemy. After killing, Hu Laiina squatted on the ground, one hand in the pool of blood, panting heavily, and her eyes were extremely red. Her whole body was trembling slightly. The killing intent was so condensed that it was almost tangible. It was like a black fog lingering around her. At least thousands of people have been killed. Wang Feng frowned secretly. Tang San was able to hold on because he had awakened the Blue-Silver Emperor and obtained the skull, which strengthened his spiritual power. It was the same for Hulayina. The skull of Star and the mutated martial soul made Hulayina's spiritual power very strong. Moreover, she should be able to communicate with the consciousness of Star in the skull to reduce the killing intent. But even so, every subsequent match would be a test for him. The King of Massacre must have done this on purpose. Wang Fengxin thought. Obviously, the King of Massacre wanted the three of them to be controlled by the killing intent and not be able to complete the 100 matches in the end. Even the two murderous gods behind Tang San and Hulayina could not find any excuse for such a method. That was because they had come to the City of Massacre for the sake of killing. If they could not withstand the killing intent, then they could only blame their weak willpower and spirit. The King of Massacre did not kill them directly. Instead, he wanted them to die here in this way. Naturally, Wang Feng was not affected at all. However, if this continued, even if Tang San and Hulayina had strong spiritual power and the skull, they might not be able to withstand it. Everyone had their limits. We'll see when the time comes. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Little 3 also cultivates the mysterious heaven method, which is considered a righteous method. There is a big difference between his internal strength and a soul master's soul power. Thinking of this, Wang Feng could not help but be moved. His soul power was refined and compressed by the meteoric tear. The quality of his soul power was very high, but Wang Feng did not know what other uses it had. Soul power was generally related to a soul master's martial soul and the individual. A soul master with twin martial souls would generally have two different soul power attributes in his body, so he could not use them at the same time. The two soul power attributes would conflict with the body. If they were used at the same time, it was very easy for the soul master to explode under the impact of the two soul power attribute. This was probably why one could only use one martial soul's soul skill. Just like this, another year passed. Wang Feng had been in the City of Massacre for 2 years. He had also won 99 matches. In this year, Wang Feng's soul power had increased by 2 ranks and reached rank 57. The last blood pattern of the Dark Angel martial soul had not appeared. 6 had already appeared. However, he was still unable to condense the last one. Based on the different abilities of each blood pattern, Wang Feng knew that if he used the Dark Angel martial soul now, his body could form a real domain. This domain was not the domain of an ordinary titled Douluo's 9th soul skill. It was the domain of a martial soul. End of chapter. Chapter 511. However, Wang Feng didn't know the specific use of the domain because he hadn't tested it yet. Wang Feng remembered that Tang San had the Blue-Silver Emperor's Blue-Silver domain, but he didn't know if it had been awakened yet. The City of Massacre was also covered by a type of domain. Wang Feng didn't know what the domain formed by the 7 blood traces of the Dark Angel martial soul was. But it should be very strong. When the first blood trace appeared, the enemies within 100 meters of him would fall into a state of rage. Their strength would drop and their minds would be out of control. However, it could be resisted. As long as one's mind was calm, they wouldn't be affected. Therefore, Wang Feng thought it was just a simple type of aura. It couldn't really affect others. It was just an emotional effect, but people's emotions could be avoided. A real domain was very difficult. In the 2 years in the City of Massacre, Wang Feng had made great progress by cultivating the Dark Angel martial soul and the mysterious underworld spike. The mysterious underworld spike could now control nearly 20 sharp blades, and its range had increased to about 80 meters. And with daily training, the progress was getting bigger and bigger. However, Wang Feng felt that the mysterious underworld spike's imperial equipment should be a threshold when it reached 100 meters. Wang Feng felt that his mind power could only control that far. Once it exceeded 100 meters, he might lose control completely. It wasn't that his mind power wasn't enough, but that his quality wasn't good enough. Wang Feng, who possessed a large amount of knowledge, guessed that this might require him to condense his enormous mental strength. But Wang Feng couldn't figure out the specific method. Mind power wasn't soul power. It didn't even have a basic cultivation method. It grew by itself, let alone condensing it. If Wang Feng didn't have the meteoric tear, he wouldn't be able to condense and purify his soul power. His mind power couldn't be used by the meteoric tear. I wonder how Xiao San and Hu Laina are doing. Wang Feng frowned slightly. The last match would take a long time to prepare. There was no news for half a month. The last 20 matches would take longer to prepare. There were only 2 or 3 matches a month, or even 1 match a month. Wang Feng remembered that in the 95th mat, Tang San had already reached his limit, but fortunately, he was able to control it in time. Hu Laina was about the same. According to Wang Feng's calculations, the number of people who died in their hands was probably as high as 10,000. Perhaps this wasn't a huge number for the City of Massacres, but it was a terrifying number for any soul master. Wang Feng used the mysterious dark spike to kill even more. Normally, if a normal person were to kill 100 people, their mental state would be severely affected. As a soul master, his spiritual power was even stronger. Killing 1,000 people was something he could endure. However, even with Tang San and Hu Laina's special abilities, it was still difficult for them to bear with tens of thousands of people. The King of Massacres method is rather effective. Wang Feng thought to himself. Why were so few people able to last more than 100 rounds? Strength was one aspect, but more importantly, it was difficult to control this kind of killing intent. Even if you stayed in the City of Slaughter and didn't kill often, you would be infected by the aura here and gradually lose yourself. Not to mention those experts who had taken countless lives. The more he killed, the stronger his killing intent, and the easier it was for him to suffer a backlash. Why was the white-clothed death god able to make countless women in the inner city go crazy over him? The biggest reason was that the white-clothed death god's aura was incomparably pure, causing people to go crazy over him. In the capital of Slaughter, Wang Feng's pure aura had attracted not only the females, but many experts as well. No matter how much Wang Feng tried to restrain his aura, it was useless. After his body was refined by the Red Lotus, it was almost natural. It was impossible to restrain his aura. This was the result of Wang Feng covering himself completely. If Wang Feng took off his mask and revealed a little of his appearance, Wang Feng was afraid that these people would swarm over him if he walked out. This was how handsome people were. There were even people who were willing to be slaves and stay by Wang Feng's side. Their purpose was to get closer to Wang Feng and let Wang Feng's pure aura suppress the boiling killing intent in their bodies. Wang Feng naturally refused. What a joke. He had the mysterious dark spike, so he didn't need any slaves. Actually, there was another way to calm these people who couldn't control their killing intent. That was Bloody Mary. Human blood. As long as they drank this type of Bloody Mary, they could slightly suppress the killing intent in their bodies. However, this thing was poison. The more they drank it, the more addicted they would be to it. In the end, they couldn't leave it at all. Wang Feng could roughly guess the result of this situation. Tang San and Hu Laina didn't drink it, because the two of them also saw the clues. They knew that if they drank this kind of thing, they might not be able to quit. It would be more troublesome then. Today seems to be the last day, right? Wang Feng thought quietly. He walked out of the door. The air was still filled with a rotten aura. His white robe was otherworldly, and his aura was clear. The short blades formed by the mysterious dark spike surrounded him. The moment he walked out, several men and women ran over and knelt more than 10 meters away. Their bodies were still trembling slightly, and their eyes were red. White-clothed death god, please take us in. We are willing to listen to everything you say in the City of Slaughter. As long as you let us stay 3 meters, no, 5 meters away from you. Their eyes were full of desire. These people had lived in the city of slaughter for more than 10 years and were on the verge of collapse. Simple indulgence could no longer relieve the killing intent in their bodies. They didn't know how much Bloody Mary they drank, but the effect was very little. Wang Feng didn't even look at them. He didn't know how many such things he encountered every day. After Wang Feng left, those people panted violently. Then, they roared like wild beasts and began to fight on the street. In the end, they fell to the ground. This was the end of the fallen in the city of slaughter. Even if they could avoid being killed by others, they couldn't escape this result. He came to the slaughter field. Before he even reached the entrance, many onlookers had already rushed out from inside, their faces filled with fear. As soon as he entered, Wang Feng frowned. The strong smell of blood. In the slaughter field, Tang San and Hu Laiina were like two ghostly silhouettes, crazily slaughtering inside. Their eyes were pure blood red. The killing intent on their bodies had already condensed to the point that it was solid. They almost killed anyone they saw. The two didn't meet each other because the slaughter field was very big and there were many people. In the slaughter field, there were shrill screams that constantly sounded. Many of them were spectators on the spectator stands. They just came to watch, but they were all killed by the two. Wang Feng glanced at them and knew that the two must have just finished participating in the competition. They couldn't control their killing intent anymore. Wang Feng didn't know how many people they killed in the city of slaughter in the original work, but it was definitely not as many as now. Tens of thousands of people, this was no joke. End of chapter. Chapter 5:12. If this goes on, I'm afraid these two will become lunatics who only know how to kill. It seems like this match is their limit. Wang Feng suddenly looked at the sky. He could clearly see that there was a floating room above them. It seemed like there were two pairs of eyes staring at this place. A few days ago, Wang Feng noticed that Tang San and Hu Laiina might have reached their limit. At the same time, in the floating room, Lord, these two people's willpower is very strong. The woman in black whispered, under our control, they killed more than 10,000 people. In the last match, they couldn't hold on at all. The previous killing gods didn't kill so many people even after winning 100 matches. 7,000 people is their limit. Unfortunately, if this continues, the only result will be death from exhaustion. Their minds are already on the verge of collapse. A chuckle sounded from the woman in black. Only this white-clothed death god is really strange. The number of people he killed will only be more than these two people. But now, he is completely fine. As if she saw Wang Feng's figure, the woman in black shook her head and said, King, in the history of the city of slaughter, did such a person exist? In the city of slaughter, one would be affected. As the number of people killed increased, the effect would be deeper. Even the king of slaughter was the same. The city of slaughter had a history of over 1,000 years. However, the king of slaughter had changed many times. The king of slaughter shook his head slightly. This white-clothed death god could be said to be the most mysterious Hell Mode 100 victory champion in the city of slaughter. In the past, most of the people who reached the 100 victory champion were controlled by their killing intent. A small number of people were not controlled and barely had enough strength to enter the Hell Mode. However, they could not last long. However, only this white-clothed death god's aura did not change at all. In this city of slaughter, he was very special. It was as if the number of people he killed was not important to him. The king of slaughter had stayed here for so many years. This was the first time he saw such a mysterious person. Theoretically speaking, this was impossible, unless the other party had reached the realm where he could completely control his killing intent. However, even if that was the case, his aura could not be so pure. However, only he is left. He is not a big threat to us, the woman in black said with a smile. But just as she said that, she suddenly froze. This was because she suddenly saw the god of death in white walking toward Tang San and Hu Laiina, who were already in a semi-crazy state. What is he trying to do? The King of Massacre's face darkened. They are rivals. Could it be that this white-robed death god wants to save them? Impossible, the white-clothed Grim Reaper doesn't know them at all. Dream on. In this state, the Azura King and the Hell's Emissary cannot be saved. Even Bloody Mary will have no effect on them, unless you personally take action. The woman in black sneered. I think he wants to take care of those two. However, those two are currently controlled by killing intent. It won't be easy to take care of them. At that time, he would be besieged by the two of them. He would only be courting death if he went. The Azura King and the Hell's Emissary were naturally very strong. Both of them were 100-win champions. Moreover, under such circumstances, both of them were even more powerful than usual. In the killing field, Wang Feng took the lead to approach Tang San, who was the closest to him. At this time, Tang San, who was in a killing frenzy, was still glowing with a faint blue light. Blue-silver domain? Did he just awaken? Wang Fengxin was shocked. He looked at Tang San and found that Tang San's eyes were bloodshot. Although Little Three is controlled by this killing intent, his soul consciousness should still be awake. It's just that he can't control his body. After 2 years of high-intensity killing, killing has become an instinct. Wang Feng shook his head. His hand moved like lightning as he grabbed Tang San's shoulder. Waves of pure soul force slowly flowed into Tang San's hand. Very quickly, Wang Feng's movements came to a halt the moment he neared Tang San. The blood in his eyes was quickly controlled by Little Three. Under Wang Feng's robe, a blood mark engraved on his body lit up slightly, absorbing the killing intent on Tang San's body at this time. In the current state of these two people, he couldn't just wake them up with the aura he emitted. They were in a state where they were completely controlled by the killing intent, and not in a state where they were not controlled before. Naturally, Wang Feng used the 7 blood marks attached to the Dark Angel Martial Soul to secretly absorb the killing intent on Tang San's body. After only a moment, the killing intent on Tang San's body flowed out like a tide, but Wang Feng didn't completely absorb it. He only absorbed the part that Tang San could withstand. Soon, Tang San stopped. He had just regained consciousness. He suddenly used both hands to support himself on the pillar and gasped for breath. Wang Feng quickly walked to the other side of Hu Laina. Hu Laina's situation was similar to Tang San's. She had the star skull and didn't even suffer any injuries at this time, but her eyes were unconsciously killing. Wang Feng grabbed Hu Laina's shoulders and used the blood mark to absorb the killing intent on Hu Laina's body. Wang Feng found that although his blood mark was activated, it could still absorb all kinds of aura in the massacre city and hadn't reached a state of saturation. As Wang Feng used the blood mark to absorb a part of Hu Laina's killing intent, coupled with the pure aura on Wang Feng's body, Hu Laina gradually calmed down. She leaned on the pillar next to her with a dazed look in her eyes, as if she was recalling something. When Wang Feng arrived, they had already been in this state for some time. To be precise, after completing 100 rounds today, they couldn't suppress the killing intent at all and erupted. At this time, the King of Massacre and the woman in black in the room were shocked. Impossible, how did he do it? Although he emitted a pure aura that could slightly drive away the killing intent on others, these two people were completely controlled by the killing intent. It's impossible to use aura to wake them up. The woman in black said in disbelief. It's absorption. The King of Massacre slowly revealed two fangs. This white god of death has the ability to absorb killing intent. No wonder he's not affected by the massacre city. He sensed it very clearly. The killing intent on King Azura and the Hell's Emissary had disappeared. Otherwise, they couldn't have woken up so quickly. Absorbing killing intent? The woman in black was shocked. Did the absorbed killing intent disappear? Even if it's used for cultivation, killing intent will affect one's spirit and soul. How come there's no change at all? The King of Massacre didn't know about this. Killing intent was a mystery within a mystery. It was a seemingly invisible but tangible force. He had never heard of anyone who could absorb killing intent for cultivation. It was good enough to be able to control the killing intent, let alone being unaffected when used for cultivation, unless it was a god. P.S. There are 3 or 4 more chapters in the evening. This chapter ends. Chapter 5:13. At this time, on the killing field, Tang San and Hulaina slowly woke up. Tang San's spiritual power was stronger than Hulaina's, so he woke up the fastest. As Wang Feng expected, although Tang San was controlled by the desire to kill just now, he still remembered it very clearly. After this last match, after killing 9 people, Tang San could not control the killing intent that he had accumulated for 2 years. Even in the last few months, Tang San almost did not cultivate. Every day, he forced his mind to control this killing intent. In the first 2 matches, Tang San felt that he had reached his limit, but he still relied on his tenacious willpower to hold on. But in the last match, the 9 people were full of strong killing intent. After Tang San killed them, the huge killing intent on the 9 people almost instantly broke through the killing intent that Tang San had controlled for 2 years. The terrifying killing intent was like a flood that rushed into his soul and spirit crazily, causing him to fall into a state of killing intent rampage. It was the same for Hulaina. In the first 2 matches, she even relied on the consciousness of the stars in her soul bone to barely wake up. But in the last match, it was really not a matter of whether she could hold on or not. The call of the stars did not have any effect. One had to know that every time one killed someone, the killing intent on that person would accumulate in one's body. So the more one killed, the more killing intent accumulated in one's body. The 9 people in the last match were not simple. In fact, before this, Hulaina wanted to find the white-clothed Grim Reaper because the aura on his body was really effective. One time, she accidentally passed by the white-clothed Grim Reaper and instantly felt much more awake. After all, she knew that the white-clothed Grim Reaper was special a year ago. But later, she thought that the white-clothed Grim Reaper was 1,000 miles away and did not care about her 2 years ago. It had nothing to do with her. Hulaina did not want to ask for a rebuff, so she gave up. And the Azura King's martial soul was the clear sky hammer. Although it was a little stronger than her, it could not completely avoid this situation, so she did not think about it. At this time, Hulaina, who was sweating profusely, took in a deep breath of fresh air. The clarity of her mind made her feel relieved. Although the killing intent was still there, it was much smaller. It was completely within the range that Hulaina could bear, and it would not be as violent as before. He saved me. Hulaina's black attire clung tightly to her graceful body due to her sweat, revealing her perfect figure vividly. Her fair skin was oozing with sparkling and translucent beads of sweat. Her hair, which was originally tied up, was also stained with blood due to the crazy slaughter just now. It stuck to her cheeks and neck, making her look a little demonic. His entire body was emitting waves of heat. After resting for a while, Hulaina looked at the Azura King again. She found that the Azura King had completely recovered. She was slightly surprised. This Azura King was indeed very powerful. Its mental strength should be higher than hers. Due to the mutation of her martial soul, her spiritual power had been greatly enhanced. Now that she had obtained a star-type soul bone, her spiritual power had also been greatly enhanced. Although Xingxing only had a 20,000-year cultivation, she had already gained intelligence. Her spiritual power was much stronger than that of a 20,000-year soul beast. Due to all these reasons, Hulaina's spiritual power had reached an unbelievable level. In terms of spiritual power, she was not inferior to a soul Douluo. Why did the white-clothed Grim Reaper save me and the Azura King? Hulaina looked at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Not to mention what happened 2 years ago, she had been secretly observing the situation for the past 2 years. Not many people had appeared within 30 meters of the white-clothed Grim Reaper. No one was allowed to come close. Not to mention saving people, it was already good enough that he did not kill anyone. This had nothing to do with them. Why did he save them? Could it be because of the Hell Road? Or because of the King of Massacre? Hulaina was shocked. She was very clear that the reason why the three of them had killed so many people over the past 2 years was because someone had arranged it in secret. Otherwise, with the strength of the three of them, no one would be so stupid as to be willing to seek death by besieging them. It was because they had killed so many people that she and the Azura King were unable to control their killing intent in the end. All this meant that someone wanted them to die in secret, but didn't want to do it himself. In the City of Massacre, only the King of Massacre would be able to do something like this. If the Azura King and I are not dead, the King of Massacre will have some scruples. The Hell Road is even more dangerous. If the three of us go through it together, the success rate will be much higher. Could it be that he wants to borrow the strength of the Azura King and me? As she thought of this, Hulaina's heart skipped a beat. If that's the case, he does have a motive to save us. However, no matter how much I think about it, I'll just ask him directly. At this moment, Tang San also looked at Hulaina. Evidently, he had thought of this too. Otherwise, why would the white-clothed Grim Reaper save them for no reason? Hulaina walked 5 meters away from the white-clothed Grim Reaper. This was the second time in 2 years that Hulaina was so close to the white-clothed Grim Reaper. The moment Hulaina walked to the white-clothed Grim Reaper's side, she had the urge to continue moving closer. It was too comfortable. That feeling was as if she had returned to the primitive forest and breathed in the fresh air. There was no part of her body that was uncomfortable. It was also as if she was bathing in the gentle sunlight. With the gentle breeze, waves of warmth gushed out from her body, dispelling the cold, murderous intent in her heart. Hulaina was slightly shocked. Last time, she only pretended to be passing by, so she didn't feel it clearly. Now that she was even closer to the white-clothed Grim Reaper, the comfortable feeling made her want to cry out. In fact, if an ordinary person stayed by Wang Feng's side, Hulaina would not feel as exaggerated as she did. At most, she would feel quite comfortable. However, Hulaina and Tang San had stayed in the City of Massacre for too long. They were deeply affected by the increasingly strong murderous intent and various negative emotions. Their minds had been tense all this time. That was why they felt so strongly. It was like a person who was tired from the day going to take a bath. It was extremely comfortable. However, a person who was not tired from the day would not feel so comfortable taking a bath. Where did this white-clothed Grim Reaper come from? No wonder those women in the inner city went crazy for him. Even many men are willing to be slaves and stay by his side. The aura on his body is even more powerful than the peerless masters who have achieved the oneness of heaven and man in my previous life. Tang San was also extremely shocked. In the world of his previous life, there was a legendary martial Dao master who had achieved the oneness of heaven and man. He had many magical abilities that could change the vitality of the world and make the people around him calm down. This white-clothed Grim Reaper seemed to be even more powerful. Was it innate or did he have a special ability? "Thank you," Hulaina said in a low voice as she greedily breathed in the clear aura. "You're welcome." Wang Feng shook his head lightly. 2 years ago, you warned the shadowless assassin. Let's call it even. Hearing that, both of them were stunned. Chapter 514. Could it be that you saved us because of this? Hulaina and Tang San were a little shocked. Back then, they were just casually mentioning it. They didn't expect the Grim Reaper to remember it so clearly. And just because of such a small matter? Hulaina looked at the Grim Reaper suspiciously. Tang San was also a little bewildered. Just because I reminded him back then, he would save me? Although it made sense, he still felt that it was a little off. At this moment, as the two recovered, a figure slowly descended from mid-air. It was a tall man. The cape on his back was like wings fluttering in the air. His appearance was ordinary. His face was very pale, and his pupils were blood-red. His body was suffused with a cold and fishy aura. This aura was similar to the smell of Bloody Mary, but it smelled better. The King of Massacre. Seeing this person, the three of them thought of this word. The supreme person who controlled the capital of Massacre had the strength of a titled Doulu. The King of Massacre slowly descended on the high platform of the massacre field. He stared at the three people below and slowly said, "Congratulations to the three of you for winning the 100 Victory Championship of the massacre field. Very good. It has been a long time since the capital of Massacre had a 100 Victory Champion. I didn't expect three of them to appear at the same time and to be able to survive." At this point, the King of Massacre glanced at the three of them. His last sentence was a little strange. Wang Feng also sensed this King of Massacre and thought to himself, this should be Little San's great-grandfather, right? But now, he should have lost his mind in the capital of Massacre and can't remember anyone. Otherwise, logically speaking, when Little San used the clear sky hammer, he should have recognized him. Next, you have two choices. One is to continue challenging the road to hell. The other is to become a guest elder of the capital of Massacre. I can give you the title of Grim Reaper and allow you to enter the capital of Massacre as you wish. The King of Massacre said indifferently. There was actually not much to choose. Since they had come to the capital of Massacre, if they didn't challenge the road to hell, what was the point? I advise you to think carefully before you choose. A cold light flashed in the King of Slaughter's eyes. Before you, there were already several hundred wind champions who had fallen on the hell road. None of them were weaker than you. If what the King of Massacre said was true, it was indeed very difficult for each of the champions to persist until now. Their strength was really not much inferior to Tang San and Hu Laina. However, Tang San and Hu Laina did not hesitate and walked directly to the center. A strange light flashed in Wang Feng's eyes. This King of Massacre couldn't be thinking of attacking him, right? But if he really wanted to fight, he probably wouldn't use that kind of move. Wang Feng did not hesitate and walked to the center. Seeing this, a strange smile appeared on the King of Massacre's face. Very good. Then, I wish you good luck. The King of Massacre's smile inexplicably shocked Tang San and Hu Laina. Even Wang Feng felt that something was off. Could it be that this Hell's Road was very different? Wang Feng was not very familiar with the Hell's Road in the original work. Wang Feng did not even remember the city of Massacre clearly, let alone the Hell's Road. However, in the original work, Tang San and Hu Laina could make it out. Logically speaking, it was even more impossible for him to make it out. Until now, Wang Feng had not heard the sound of the system punching in. This meant that the punching location should be at the Hell's Road in the city of Massacre. It could be at the destination. When the King of Massacre finished speaking, his body trembled slightly. Suddenly, a red light was emitted from his body and scattered in all directions. Wherever the scarlet light spread, all the slaughtered corpses in the massacre field suddenly burst out with blood. They were quickly sucked dry and flowed into the entire Hell's massacre field. These corpses were all killed by Tang San and Hu Laina's riot just now. Even the remaining fallen ones seemed to have lost consciousness. They fell into a special state and directly killed themselves. The entire Hell's massacre field flowed with endless blood and gathered on the ground under the three people's feet. Light slowly lit up from the ground. A huge blood-colored bat pattern appeared on the ground. The moment this mass appeared, the three people's consciousness shook and were enveloped by countless blood-colored light. This blood-colored light seemed to have great energy. The moment it rushed toward the three people, Tang San and Hu Laina's bodies automatically produced a mist condensed from killing intent and shrouded them respectively. There was also a layer of blue light on Tang San's body to resist this blood-colored light. However, Wang Feng was not affected at all. A teleportation array? Wang Fengxin said. I've never seen a teleportation array in the Douluo world, but this feels quite similar. It's using this blood as the key to activate it. As the blood-colored light flashed, Wang Feng's vision and perception also fell into nothingness. He could not sense anything. After an unknown period of time, the light slowly dissipated, and his perception slowly returned to his body. That blood-colored light is a good nourishment. Wang Feng's perception returned, and he thought to himself, it can strengthen the blood traces. Cultivating one usually may not have such an effect. The evil and icy aura in the blood-colored light will probably have a great impact on soul masters, and the killing intent on their bodies can slightly resist this blood-colored light. However, this blood-colored light was useless against him. Tang San also awakened the blue-silver domain, which could also resist the blood-colored light. Hulaina's skull also emitted a pale pink light. In addition to her own killing intent, it could also resist the blood-colored light. Obviously, it was the soul skill in Hulaina's skull and the protection of Star's consciousness. Tang San was the first to wake up. Then Hulaina also woke up. Coupled with the fact that she was still beside Wang Feng, it could be said that she woke up very quickly. When the two of them woke up, they began to look around. Wang Feng also looked around. They were on a platform that could only accommodate more than 10 people. Other than that, there was nothing else. The surroundings were suffused with a blood-red light, and a faint smell of blood floated in the air. It was still the same smell as Bloody Mary, and this smell of blood floated from below the platform. This platform was actually floating in midair. There was a lot of thick fog below the platform, and they couldn't see what was below, only bursts of red light flashing. In front of the platform, there was only a long path. This path could only accommodate one person, and it was also floating in midair. There was no point of support below. It looked like the only small path above the bloody abyss. For a moment, the three of them were silent. Let's work together. Hulaina's voice was slightly gentle. Her gaze first fell on Tang San, then on Wang Feng. This place also has the same domain as the City of Massacre. The path ahead can only be passed by one person. If we kill each other, no one may be able to pass through. Moreover, there are no personal grudges between the three of us, excluding the factions we belong to. Chapter 5:15. I have a hunch that this path and the blood mist below are extremely dangerous. This didn't require a hunch at all. It was inevitable. Tang San didn't say anything. This terrain wasn't difficult for him, but no one knew what he would encounter on the way. Hulaina was right. Although Tang San knew that this girl was from the golden generation of the Martial Spirit Palace, he didn't have any grudges with her. As a person who could distinguish between kindness and hatred, Tang San only had a deep hatred for the Pope. My name is Hulaina, a disciple of the Martial Spirit Palace's Pope Bibidon. As if to gain their trust, Hulaina took the lead and said, I'm currently at level 59, and my martial soul is Demon Fox. Hearing this, Tang San was shocked. This girl was not only from the Golden Generation, but she was also a disciple of the Pope Bibidon? No wonder Father said that this girl was the strongest among the Golden Generation. So there was this reason. No wonder she was so strong. Tang San was silent for a moment. He didn't reject Hulaina's proposal and said slowly, My name is Tang Yin, from the Heavenly Sect. I'm currently at level 55, and my martial soul is the Heavenly Hammer. He had been using the Heavenly Hammer as a combat weapon. Hulaina nodded slightly. She had already noticed the martial soul of this Azura king. Although the Heavenly Sect and the Martial Spirit Palace didn't get along, there was nothing to say at this time. Since they had decided to cooperate temporarily, there was no need to hide this information. After the two finished speaking, they looked straight at the white-clothed Grim Reaper. Wang Feng looked around, thought for a moment and said, My name is Nicholas Wang Wu. Hulaina. Tang San. Nicholas Wang Wu? What kind of name is this? I'm from the extreme north, currently at level 57, and my martial soul is… Let me think. My martial soul is the sharp blade you saw. Wang Feng said casually. He just said the name. Anyway, he didn't have to pay taxes. Moreover, these two guys were also using aliases. Although the two felt that the name was weird, they didn't say much. However, the words extreme north still surprised them. Especially Hulaina. She met Xing Xing in the outer circle of the extreme north. That was very dangerous. That place was extremely dangerous, and any soul cultivator who could walk out of that place was a first-rate powerhouse. Although Tang San had never been there, he had heard of it. Naturally, he was surprised. All right, it's settled then. Hulaina's expression darkened as she continued. You guys should know what rewards you'll get if you walk through Hell's Path, right? Tang San shook his head slightly. He was not sure. It was only because his father said that he had to take this path to hell that he did. Wang Feng didn't know much about it, but he didn't care. He had already completed his training in Massacre City, so he was here to check in. You don't know? Hulaina frowned and said, Didn't anyone tell you when you came in? Forget it, I'll tell you. Once we walk through Hell's Path, we will obtain a talent domain. You should at least know about talent domains, right? Tang San's eyes turned cold. The blue light that he had just used to resist the crimson light seemed to be a domain, and it was an innate domain of the Blue-Silver Emperor. His teacher had said a long time ago that domain skills were extremely rare, and would usually only appear in the 9th soul skill of a titled Doulu. Some might not even have it, and most of the innate domains came with the martial soul, not a soul skill, so he could use it. He didn't expect that the reward of Hell's Path would be a kind of innate domain. Wang Feng naturally knew about innate domains. His dark angel martial soul had one, and it would soon take shape. As for the reward of Hell's Path, Wang Feng didn't care much about it. The Massacre City we are in is shrouded by a huge domain. Hulaina continued, I suspect that this domain may be related to the abyss below the blood fog. The smell of blood in the air is very similar to the smell of Bloody Mary. You should have smelled it, right? Although I can't see the scene below the blood fog, I guess it must be an abyss made of countless blood. Tang San had also guessed this point. Or rather, he saw it. Using the purple demon eyes, he could see through the hazy blood fog. What was hidden was an incomparably huge blood pool. In the blood pool were those Bloody Marys. There was a faint roar coming from below. It was very strange. Seeing it, Tang San could naturally guess it. This blood pool was probably the root of the Massacre City, and also the source of the formation of the Massacre City's domain. One had to know that although the domain of the Massacre City was rumored to be left behind by a rank 100 powerhouse, it didn't have the support of a soul master. How could a domain always exist? A domain also needed soul power to activate, and the domain of the Massacre City obviously also needed special soul power to activate. And the source of the activation was human blood that was mixed with poison. The two of them had stayed in the Massacre City for more than 2 years, and they were not fools. Naturally, they had a guess in their hearts. Now, according to the terrain here, they could naturally analyze and guess. This Hell's Path is this small path, and also the only exit. Hulaina pointed to the small path ahead. It's best if the three of us can stay together. This way we can move forward and also deal with special situations at the same time. This was also a form of trust. If one of them was attacked and the other two didn't help, then the two of them would be greatly affected. Wang Feng frowned slightly and looked into the distance. With his senses, he could vaguely feel that this Hell's Path was probably not ordinary. The further they went, the more dangerous it was. Wang Feng wasn't afraid of the other three. As the protagonist of the original work, He should be able to turn danger into safety and walk through. But Hulaina might not be able to. At this moment, Hulaina suddenly took out various tools from her soul tool. Among these tools there were ropes, long hooks, and so on. I prepared them in advance. This rope is very hard, made with heavenly silk soaked in congealed fat. It has both flexibility and toughness, and can withstand the weight of 50 people without breaking. Even sharp weapons can't cut it instantly. Hulaina pointed to the long hook. This hook can prevent sudden drop. Do you need it? Tang San shook his head. Although the preparation was good, he had the soaring god's claw and didn't need such things. But he was secretly shocked that Hulaina was so meticulous. She was so well prepared. As an enemy, this kind of person was very scary. He couldn't help but think of that battle. He had almost turned the tables on Hulaina. Wang Feng didn't really need it. All right, I'll use the rope then. Hulaina tied the rope around her slender waist and looked at the two of them. Who's in front? Or me? Me. Tang San said slowly. He wasn't afraid of leaving his back to Hulaina because he had the 8 spider spears behind him. As long as he felt that something was wrong with Hulaina, he could instantly assassinate her. Hulaina nodded, then looked at Wang Feng and said, Wang Wu, what about you? I'll go last. Wang Feng took the rope and was about 2 meters away from Hulaina. Chapter 5:16. Then we'll have to trouble you. Hulaina glanced at Wang Feng with her beautiful eyes. It will be more dangerous later. Sensing the white-clothed Grim Reaper, Nicholas, and Wang Wu behind her, Hulaina felt a special sense of security for no reason. Maybe it was because the other party was very powerful. After discussing, the three began to step on the path. The path was very narrow, similar to the road in her previous life, but for the three it was easy to move forward. And with enough distance they could maintain a good pace. Although Tang San was vigilant against both of them as a guide, he could see far away with his purple demon eyes. As long as the other party didn't act recklessly, he would maintain a cooperative relationship. After all, Tang San also felt that this hell road was extremely dangerous. Wang Feng walked at the back and looked at Hulaina, who didn't look at the front. In fact, looking at Hulaina from behind, he could feel the perfect figure of the martial spirit palace saintess. Her moving arc was extremely tempting. It was easy to be distracted by just looking at it. As for Wang Feng, he didn't feel anything, because he had been using his mind to perceive the surroundings. Since entering this hell road, Wang Feng had an ominous premonition. The three maintained a slow pace. At this time, Hulaina suddenly turned her head, looked at Wang Feng, and suddenly asked, Wang Wu, your mask covers your eyes. How are you able to attack so accurately? As if you can see everything clearly? Hulaina could also use her mind to perceive the surroundings, but she could only do this. Why should I tell you? Hulaina. She choked and didn't know what to say. There was nothing wrong with the other party's answer. Why should he tell her? Then is there a special reason for you to wear a mask? Hulaina asked the question that she wanted to ask when they first met. So handsome. Hulaina choked again. Tang San in front also staggered and broke out in a cold sweat. Logically speaking, he wouldn't make such a mistake. The main reason was that the contrast between the white-clothed Grim Reaper's words was too strong. It had been like this since the first time they met 2 years ago. This Nicholas King V was obviously terrifyingly strong. He was like a cold-faced death god who rarely spoke. However, every sentence seemed to be directed at the heart of the person. It gave people a strong sense of contrast, and they would have a feeling that he shouldn't have said such things. It felt a little familiar. It's a little like Big Brother Feng's style. Tang San was shocked. But after thinking about it, Tang San shook his head. How could this white-clothed Grim Reaper be Brother Feng? The more Hulaina asked, the more she found it interesting. She was the closest to the latter. This was the first time she had maintained such a distance for such a long time. The aura of the other party made people feel very calm and comfortable. Moreover, the closer one got, the stronger the feeling was, causing one to involuntarily want to get closer. However, Hulaina did not make such a move, and she still maintained her distance and rhythm. Wang Feng had long thought that after his body was tempered by the red lotus karmic fire, his body might really be comparable to the flesh of Tang Sanzang in Journey to the West. Pure and untainted, without any negative karma. His soul was pure and his thoughts were naturally pure as well. Even the heaven and earth essence Qi wanted to move in. Any demon would want to take a bite out of it. It was a great attraction to living beings. This could be seen from the cultivation in the city of Massacre. Hulaina did not quite believe it. In terms of handsomeness, Tang Yin's appearance was one of the most handsome she had ever seen. However, appearance was not very attractive to Hulaina. She valued personal charm more and strength more. After walking for a while, Wang Feng suddenly said, "Do you feel it?" The two of them were slightly stunned and shook their heads. Seeing this, Wang Feng did not say anything and continued walking. After a while, Tang San suddenly said, "I feel it. I think I can feel it." Hulaina was slightly stunned when she heard this. After walking for a while, Hulaina also said in a low voice, "I feel it too. I can feel it too. Our position is constantly descending. The temperature of the blood pool below is very high. Every time we descend a certain distance, the temperature will increase. Moreover, if we continue walking, danger will come." After saying that, Hulaina could not help but look at the two of them. The white-clothed Grim Reaper was the first to sense it. Tang Yin was the second. She was the last. Although Wang Wu's vision was blocked by the mask and he was standing behind, he could sense it first. This was enough to show how powerful his mental strength was. Tang Yin was the second. His mental strength was slightly higher than hers, but the difference was not very big. Tang San was not surprised because the white-clothed Grim Reaper's mysterious weapon required an extremely abnormal mental strength to kill people. It was normal that the other party could sense it first. At this moment, swoosh, 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 sharp blades suddenly shot out from Wang Wu's body. It was those sharp blades. It was the first time Hulaina felt the sharp blade attack from the white-clothed Grim Reaper at such a close distance. There were a total of 20 blades. As the two of them who had been paying attention to the white-clothed Grim Reaper for a long time, they naturally knew that the white-clothed Grim Reaper's strength had been increasing. The 20 pitch-black sharp blades rotated around the three of them within a range of tens of meters. Seeing this, the two of them were shocked. There was only one possibility for Wang Wu to do this. There was danger. The next moment, a sharp screech was heard. In their line of sight, a scarlet light spot hundreds of meters away quickly attacked the three of them. "It looks like a bat. Is there only one?" Hulaina could barely see it clearly. It was a blood-colored bat. It was somewhat similar to the bat pattern on the ground before the blood-colored light lit up in the killing field. "No, not just one," Tang San said in a low voice. "There are many of them." As soon as he finished speaking, the sharp cry sounded. A wave of sharp cries sounded and fell into the ears of the three of them. A blood cloud suddenly appeared in front of them. There were at least thousands of blood-colored bats in the blood cloud attacking them. Seeing this, Tang San and Hulaina instantly stopped in their track. Their whole bodies were slightly tense. Those bats looked like red dots from afar, but when they flew closer, they could see that their bodies were not small. The blood-colored wings were more than a meter long when they spread out, and there were many of them. If there were only one or two, it would be easy to deal with. But now there were so many of them. It would be very troublesome. "What should we do?" Hulaina whispered. "Defend first," Tang San said in a low voice. But at this moment, the voice of the white-clothed Grim Reaper suddenly sounded. "These are all cannon fodder. They are not official attacks. Keep moving forward. Save your strength. As soon as he finished speaking, the 20 sharp blades in the air surrounded the three of them and spun wildly from all angles. Each blade was circling the three of them in a 360-degree circle. Because it was so fast, the three of them looked like they were wrapped in a black ball of light. The next moment, swoosh, swoosh, countless bats tried to enter the black ball to attack the three of them. But almost in an instant, as if they had entered a meat grinder, they were all minced into pieces. The scene was terrifying. Each blade spun dozens of times, and almost every second, they were also spinning. Under such circumstances, not a single bat could get within 80 meters of the three of them. In the air, they were minced into piles of meat paste and blood rain. Tang San and Hulaina watched in a daze. Hulaina suddenly had a feeling in her heart. She felt like she was being carried away by something. P.S. 8 o'clock in the evening, please give me some monthly votes. Chapter 5:17. The scene in midair was simply too exaggerated. Those blood-colored bats were immediately killed as soon as they got close to the black ball of light. Tang San and Hulaina felt their scalps go numb. The sharp blades formed by the dark nether spike had the terrifying effect of instantly killing these young blood bats. After a while, these blood-colored bats seemed to know that they would die if they charged over. They immediately circled in the air 80 meters away and screeched at the three of them. Be careful of their screeches, Wang Feng whispered. Their screeches are a type of low-pitched sound wave attack that can affect one's mind. Don't let your guard down. Wang Feng didn't need to remind them. The two of them could feel it. These blood-colored bats weren't simple. They weren't ordinary bats. However, they didn't seem like ordinary soul beasts either. They lived in the blood purgatory, and no one knew what kind of creature they were. They were probably intelligent. Hulaina's eyes flashed, and her pupils turned pink. She was already using her spiritual power to resist the bat. The bat's screeches were very sharp at first, but the pitch was very long. As they got lower and lower, their influence became greater and greater. They were able to stimulate the killing intent in their hearts and slowly invade their mind. Tang San's body emitted a faint blue light. Tang San wasn't affected by this blue light at all. The blue light quickly enveloped the three of them, and it gave them a feeling of vitality. The blue light overlapped with the black ball of light formed by Wang Feng's blade, and the bat's screeches seemed to be blocked. They were much softer. It seemed to be able to resist the bat's screeches. Domain. Hulaina was slightly stunned. Tang Yin wasn't simple. She actually had such a talent. Domain. The bat screeches were a type of special sound wave. Not only could it cause a spiritual attack, but it also had a strong perception effect. It could allow one to dodge the enemy's attack in advance. Normally, one could only use spiritual power to resist it. Only the power of a domain could isolate it. Could she have twin martial souls? Hulaina thought to herself. She had never heard of the clear sky hammer having such a strange talent. Domain. There was only one possibility. Did Tang Yin have other martial souls? However, Hulaina didn't think too much about it. Be careful. These bats might attack again. Wang Feng's expression suddenly changed. They might be charging in. Upon hearing that, Tang San and Hulaina were both stunned. Why did he rush in? In the next moment they understood. The bats gathered into a ball and began to spin. Then, they charged at the black ball of light again. These bats seemed to be very cunning. Although they did not rotate at the same speed as the blades, they kept rotating in the same direction. Even though some of the bats would be killed, many of them would be able to use the corpses of their companions to charge in. The moment he rushed in, Tang San's eyes flashed with a cold light, and several cold lights shot out from his hands. It was his hidden weapon. The bats barely managed to break through the black circle of light formed by the sharp blades, but they had also entered Tang San's blue-silver domain and were greatly disrupted by the power of the domain. They couldn't detect Tang San's hidden weapons through the sound waves and were instantly killed. But soon, the blood-red bats that broke through the black circle of light were not to be trifled with. They gathered together and resisted the power of the blue-silver domain. Hundreds of bats formed a large bat. Every time Tang San's hidden weapons stabbed at the assembled bat, he could only kill a few bats at a time. But when these bats died, new bats would immediately fill the gap and fly toward the three of them. Although Tang San's hidden weapons could accurately hit the enemy, he had used up a lot of hidden weapons in the 2 years he spent in the City of Massacre. Plus, he had nowhere to replenish them. Now, he didn't have many left. Plus, he could only kill a few bats at a time, so he couldn't cause any effective damage to the assembled giant bat. At this moment, Wang Feng spoke. Hulaina, use your charm to disrupt the minds of these bats and keep their formation loose. Wang Feng had just finished speaking. Tang San followed up and said, I used the vast sky hammer and directly smashed apart this large-scale bat that was assembled. As long as it breaks, it'll be difficult for them to resist. Hulaina nodded. Her charm was not only limited to men. Charm itself was a kind of mental attack. It could also interfere with all kinds of creatures, especially these bats that use sound waves to attack. It could also have a strong impact on them. The requirements were not high. She just needed to affect the bats to assemble. Then, she would use Tang San's clear sky hammer to break these bats so that they couldn't assemble. Once they couldn't assemble, they would be affected by this blue field and couldn't attack the three of them effectively. Soon, the pink pupils in Hulaina's eyes lit up slightly, and a faint mist was emitted from her body. The pink light enveloped the huge bat that had been formed. Her charm took effect. Almost visible to the naked eye, those bats swayed and couldn't maintain their formation. Their minds were disturbed, so it was naturally difficult to maintain their formation. At the same time, a huge hammer appeared in Tang San's hand. He directly threw it into the air. After being smashed by the hammer, the bats that were already loose were instantly scattered. Wang Feng's eyes focused. He pulled out a sharp blade from the black circle of strangulation and quickly cut the bats that broke the formation. The remaining 19 blades were still spinning at a high speed, blocking the bats that were ready to attack from the outside. Although there was only one sharp blade, under Wang Feng's control, all the scattered bats were quickly wiped out. Tang San's hidden weapons were responsible for some of the bats that escaped the net. After all, there were many bats, and hundreds of them rushed in. The three of them could be considered to have played their respective roles and blocked this wave of attack. After this wave of attack, the bats stopped attacking. There were many of them, at least thousands of them. They were like a red cloud in the air, screaming. Tang San and Hulaina heaved a sigh of relief. The three of them quickly rushed forward. But soon, Tang San was the first to stop. These bats are screaming even louder. Hulaina's face darkened slightly. Although her perception wasn't clear enough, she also found that something was wrong. Their boss should be here. Tang San's tone was a little gloomy. The blood-red bats were not weak. In terms of strength, each of them had hundreds or even thousands of years of cultivation. Among them, there was no lack of bats with thousands of years of cultivation. Their boss had at least tens of thousands of years of cultivation, and for sure, as their boss, they naturally had more powerful strength. But if they had other abilities, it would be troublesome. These bats must have a way to communicate with each other. After the attack just now, their boss may have some understanding of our abilities. Wang Feng continued, if we want to use the same method to deal with their boss again, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. End of chapter. Chapter 518. Tang San and Hulaina nodded. That's right, these blood-colored bats weren't ordinary soul masters. In this blood purgatory they had quite a bit of intelligence. Soon, the three of them saw a huge dark golden bat appear on the blood-colored rock above the small path in front of them. This bat was very big, even bigger than the previous one. It had 3 heads and dark golden wings. When it flew, it was at least 10 meters long. When it flew past the 3 of them, it was simply covering the sky. This is their leader? Hulaina took a deep breath. A dark golden bat. I'm afraid this is at least equivalent to a 10,000-year soul beast. The 3 of them couldn't use soul skills. It was obviously not easy to deal with a 10,000-year soul beast. And this dark golden bat was obviously very cunning. It didn't attack them immediately. It only circled and observed. It should be equivalent to a 30,000-year soul beast. Tang San glanced at it. However, it should be very intelligent. Be careful, it might destroy our path forward. This path was somewhat anti-gravity, and there were no supporting points below. If it was destroyed, they would have no way to escape. But this dark golden bat didn't seem to have any intention of destroying the path. Its 3 heads and 6 pairs of eyes looked at the 3 of them like a hunter inspecting its prey. The dark light made Hulaina a little uneasy. Tang San also felt that something was wrong. The black circle formed by the white-clothed reaper could kill many bats. Even if this dark golden bat wanted to break in, it would be greatly injured. Coupled with his blue-silver domain, these bats' abilities would be disrupted, and they would be unable to continue attacking. If this dark golden bat forced its way in, it would be completely at a disadvantage. Wang Feng also focused on sensing this dark golden bat. It didn't feel strong to him. But in this special terrain, Tang San and Hulaina couldn't use their full strength. Wang Feng was slightly better. Although he couldn't use the soul skill of the soul-devouring blood wings, he couldn't fly. But he could fly after being possessed by the dark angel martial soul. The 6 pairs of black energy wings weren't in an illusory state like before. They were completely solid, but it was troublesome to use them. It hasn't attacked yet. I'm afraid it wants to distract us. Hulaina seemed to have thought of something and said, should we speed up, or should we kill this bat on the spot before we move? Otherwise, if this continues, it will disturb our minds and the temperature around us is getting higher and higher. That's right, as they descended, the surrounding temperature continued to rise. There was also a faint, unique bloody aura that could affect one's mind. If the bats continued to harass them, they would face 2 types of dangers. Let's deal with it first. Tang San muttered. Wang Feng didn't say anything. He just watched. At this time, the dark golden bat seemed to have sensed the intentions of the 3 people and let out a crazy sharp cry. He seemed to be proud of himself, but also seemed to be mocking him. Then, the dark golden bat suddenly covered its body with its wings. It looked like a big dumpling. The dark golden bat wings suddenly emitted an intense light, as if forming a dark golden wall, and then directly fell down. Ding ding ding! The sharp blade formed by the mysterious underworld spike couldn't completely penetrate the dark golden bat's wings, even though it was spinning at high speed. It used a special ability to make its wings hard. Tang San and Hulaina both took a deep breath. Could it be that this bat can use soul skills? Soul beasts also had soul skills. They couldn't use their soul skills here. However, these soul beasts that lived here all year round seemed to be able to use their soul skills. Especially this dark golden 3-headed bat. Wang Fengxin thought, damn, I knew this hell road was a little strange. Normally, the sharp blade formed by his mysterious underworld spike could even injure ordinary 30,000-year soul beasts, although it couldn't kill them instantly. However, that was under the condition that he couldn't use his soul skills. If these soul beasts could use their soul skills to defend themselves, it would be very difficult for him to injure them with his current control over the mysterious underworld spike. It could kill those low-level bats instantly. But now, against this dark golden bat, there was little to no effect. In fact, if the mysterious underworld spike formed into a huge weapon, it could also injure this dark golden bat. However, the bigger the weapon, the weaker it would be when Wang Feng used his spiritual power to control it. The range would also be smaller, and it would be easier for him to expose himself. After all, Wang Feng had practiced using his weapon to kill people for more than 4 years before he discovered that this sharp blade was the most powerful. If I can't kill people with my weapon, then I can only rely on my physical body, Wang Fengxin thought. His ability to kill people with his weapon had reached a bottleneck. If he couldn't increase the quality of his spiritual power, it would be very difficult to increase its power. Let's wait for it to come in and attack immediately. Tang San was ready to attack as he said in a deep voice. The clear sky hammer appeared in his hand. Hulaina nodded slightly, and a red light flashed in her eyes. As long as the dark golden bat broke through the black light and entered the blue-silver domain, the two of them planned to attack. With Hulaina's charm and the blue-silver domain, they could at least get rid of 2 of the dark golden bat's heads first. Then, they could destroy the last head while it was in pain after losing 2 heads. This was Tang San's plan. In just a few breaths, the dark golden bat's huge body had completely charged into the blue-silver domain. However, the moment it charged in, it suddenly screamed, and a dark golden fog was released from its body. Tang San and Hulaina, who were about to attack, trembled and looked on in disbelief. This is a domain? Hulaina looked at the dark golden fog in shock. How can this dark golden bat have the power of a domain? Only the power of a domain could resist the power of a domain. If this dark golden bat wasn't suppressed by the blue-silver domain, they would be in great danger. It's not a domain. It's a special aura that's close to a domain. At this moment, Wang Feng said in a deep voice, it's similar to Tang Yin's talent domain. Soul beasts usually had to have 100,000 years of cultivation to have the power of a domain, which corresponded to a titled Doulu. However, many special soul beasts would have a special aura when they had 10,000 years of cultivation. Cowardly Kuan was like that. Qing Qing was formed later, and she also had a special aura. The innate domain of a human soul master was similar to this. Wang Feng even felt that Tang San's domain wasn't a real domain, because he was too weak and couldn't fully unleash the power of the blue-silver domain. It was similar to an aura. Right now, this dark golden bat clearly had the same ability. This dark golden bat was the king of these bats, and it had stayed in this bloody hell's path for many years. Although Wang Feng was a little surprised that it had such an ability, he could understand. After a short moment of shock, the other two quickly understood. End of chapter. Chapter 519. The shriek rang out again. The light on the dark golden bat's body expanded rapidly until it completely resisted the blue-silver domain. It even covered a larger area. Hulaina groaned. She felt that the blue-silver domain, which was full of vitality, was weakening rapidly. As the dark golden light shrouded the area, the killing intent in her heart began to riot. It's a special aura that can stimulate the killing intent in our bodies. The dark golden bat is stronger than me. It can cover my domain and even weaken the effects of my domain. Tang San said in a low voice. He also felt the killing intent in his heart. However, as the owner of the blue-silver domain, he could control it completely and would not be threatened by the dark golden bat's light. The blue-silver domain could not make the dark golden bat lose control. It was equivalent to losing most of its effect. Tang San did not dare to withdraw it. Once he withdrew it, the effect of the dark golden bat's domain would be even more intense. At this moment, the strange dark golden bat had put the 3 of them in a dangerous situation. Should we run? Hulaina whispered, we can use our speed to move forward quickly, but it's more dangerous. No, it might destroy the path ahead of us. Tang San shook his head. As soon as he finished speaking, the dark golden bat seemed to know what Hulaina was thinking. Its 3 heads suddenly screeched violently. Then, it suddenly shot out 3 scarlet light waves. The 3 of them, who were already alert, quickly moved forward and dodged 2 of the light waves. However, the dark golden bat was very cunning. It directly bombarded the path in front of them. The scarlet light landed on the small path and instantly blasted open a hole that was several meters wide. Countless pieces of gravel fell down and merged into the blood pool below. A cold light flashed in Tang San's eyes when he saw this. The clear sky hammer appeared in his hand again. He suddenly attacked the huge dark golden bat. However, without Hulaina's charm interference and the blue-silver domain, the dark golden bat dodged directly. In the dark golden bat's special aura, the dark golden bat's senses were also greatly enhanced. It was obviously not that easy to attack it. "I'll give it a try." A scarlet light flashed in Hulaina's eyes. Her martial soul directly attached to her body, and a furry tail appeared behind her back. Suddenly, a scarlet light burst out from her eyes and shot towards the dark golden bat eye. This was evidently a special soul skill from her skull. Not only could it temporarily increase one's spiritual power, but it could also increase one's charm. Seeing this, Tang San did not hesitate. He brandished the clear sky hammer once again. A cold glint flashed in Wang Feng's eyes. He swung his hand and threw the special dagger out. The dagger he had obtained from the shadowless assassin was extremely sharp and destructive. It could even injure his own body. Wang Feng poured in his soul power and threw it out. Then, he used his spiritual power to control it. It was extremely powerful. After obtaining this dagger, Wang Feng had toyed with it for a while. Although he couldn't control it like the mysterious underworld spike, if he threw it out with his own strength and with the help of his mental strength, he could change the trajectory of the dagger. It could also be a huge threat. Hulaina's skull's soul skill was clearly not simple. Even the dark golden bat in his own aura trembled violently, and its nimble body became much slower. At this moment, the clear sky hammer blew one of the bat's heads away. The god-slaying dagger accurately pierced through one of the heads. Then, like a boomerang, it returned to Wang Feng's hand. After losing two of its heads, the dark golden bat let out a shrill scream. Hulaina and Tang San were delighted. At this moment, be careful. Bat-type soul beasts usually have the ability to reincarnate. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly reminded them, don't give it any chance. Wang Feng suddenly recalled that he had encountered a soul beast similar to a bat in the extreme north. However, it was an ice-type bat. It had strong regenerative abilities. When they heard Wang Feng's words, the two of them did not react. The bats outside seemed to have appeared. They rushed in and forced their way through the black circles. After that, they were fed into the dark golden bat's remaining mouth. Seeing this, Tang San and Hulaina's faces turned gloomy. Wang Feng also shook his head slightly. After eating several small bats, the two heads of the dark golden bat healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. If we do it again, it will be difficult for this dark golden bat to be hit. This thought appeared in their minds. This dark golden bat was very fast. If they used the same move, they might not be hit. Do it again. At this moment, the white-clothed Grim Reaper's voice slowly sounded. This time, get rid of 3 of its heads at once. Hearing this, the two of them were stunned. I'm afraid not. The soul skill of my soul bone can't be used again in a short period of time. Moreover, this dark golden bat might not be hit. Hulaina shook her head. Tang San nodded. Even if his skull still had the purple divine light soul skill, it would be difficult to cut off 3 heads at once. Especially the closer they were to the other party, the stronger the influence of the dark golden mist. I have an idea. Wang Feng said slowly. Later, you two focus on the sky. Tang Yin, use the clear sky hammer and your purple light beam to deal with 2 of its heads. I will deal with the remaining one. The two of them were stunned. Idea? What good idea? The soul skill of Hulaina's skull could barely make the dark golden bat lose control for a few seconds. It was already very difficult. After all, it was within the opponent's aura. However, although they had some doubts in their hearts, they still did as they were told. The two of them looked up and focused on the dark golden bat. Their eyes did not move. Wang Feng, who was at the back, nodded secretly. Immediately, the blood traces on his body faintly appeared. A black light, with Wang Feng as the center, instantly enveloped the two of them. It instantly spread to the sky and enveloped the light released by the dark golden bat. The moment this black light enveloped the two of them, several different kinds of extremely evil emotions quickly rushed into their mind. Almost instantly, the two of them almost went crazy. At this moment, a calm voice instantly woke the two of them up. "Guard your mind. Get ready to attack the dark golden bat." At the same time, a pure aura quickly dissipated from Wang Feng's body and enveloped the two of them. They were barely able to withstand the attack of the black light. After the two of them woke up, they were both shocked. "It's a domain. It's the white-clothed Grim Reaper's domain. He also has a talent domain." This was the domain that Wang Feng's dark angel martial soul had yet to fully form. But at this moment, it also revealed some of its fangs, revealing a ferocious and terrifying aura. P.S. Going out today. There should be 3 or 4 more chapters tonight. Chapter 520. Wang Feng had been cultivating the dark angel martial spirit for 2 years in the capital of Massacre. Finally, at this moment, it revealed a bit of ferocity. As early as in the extreme north, when the first blood pattern of the dark angel martial spirit was activated, it formed a special aura. In this aura, it could make living creatures lose their minds and become incomparably furious. It could also absorb the life force of living creatures. However, Wang Feng almost never used it. After entering the capital of Massacre, he cultivated the dark angel martial spirit and activated the other 5 blood patterns. This special aura domain became even more powerful, but Wang Feng still did not use it. However, it was clear that this aura was the martial spirit's talent domain. Each blood pattern would bring a different blessing to this talent domain. Wang Feng was not clear about the specific effects. However, Wang Feng knew that the talent domain of the dark angel martial spirit was extremely powerful with the 6 blood patterns blessing. It might not be much different from a real domain. However, it was still a little lacking because the last blood pattern had not been activated. Even if it had not been activated, there was no doubt that the talent domain of the dark angel martial spirit was still very terrifying. This was the first time Wang Feng officially used it to deal with an enemy. Almost at the instant he used it, Wang Feng felt 6 different primitive emotions attacking his mind. However, his soul and spirit had long been purified and was completely unaffected by these 6 emotions. On the other hand, the other 2 people were completely stunned by the 6 emotions the moment Wang Feng activated the talent domain. If Wang Feng's aura had not leaked and poured his soul power into his voice, waking the 2 people up, Tang San and Hulaina would have completely lost their minds at this time. It could be seen how powerful the talent domain of the dark angel martial spirit was, and this was a completely unformed domain. Wang Fengxin thought that once the 7th blood pattern was activated, the formed domain would be even more powerful. At this time, Tang San and Hulaina, who were awakened, were stunned. The White Reaper also had a talent domain, and this talent domain seemed to be quite powerful. It almost made the 2 of them lose consciousness in an instant. However, what shocked the 2 of them even more was the next scene. As the black light covered the entire area, the dark golden bat's dark golden light mist domain was quickly covered, until it completely covered the dark golden bat. The 2 heads of the dark golden bat had just recovered when they were suddenly enveloped by the black light. In the next moment, the 3 heads let out different cries as if they had gone mad. They were even biting and killing each other. The 3 heads seemed to be fighting with each other. His body was falling rapidly, as if he had completely lost consciousness. The 2 of them couldn't help but think of the same thing: domain suppression. Clearly, this dark golden bat had been completely hit by Wang Wu's domain power, and from the looks of it, it was extremely serious. The dark golden bat's special talent domain was completely crushed. How strong is the white-clothed death god's talent domain? Or is it that he was born to restrain his opponent? That's too exaggerated. Tang San thought to himself, and it greatly affected me and Hulaina just now. Is this the talent of the white-clothed reaper? The white-clothed death god's soul power rank wasn't high, and soul masters couldn't use soul skills here. It was obvious that this was the talent domain of the opponent's martial soul. It was truly incomparably miraculous. Even this dark golden bat could be completely affected and even driven mad. What a strong talent domain! Hulaina thought to herself, just how strong is this white god of death? How many more things is he hiding? From 2 years ago until now, although the white-clothed death god was very strong, it was very limited. Other than killing people with his weapon, he rarely revealed any other powerful abilities. Although Hulaina had expected that the opponent must have hidden his strength, she didn't expect it to be so exaggerated. Another talent domain. And it was so strong. Do it. Wang Feng's low voice sounded again. Although this domain was strong, it consumed a lot of soul power. Wang Feng didn't want to exhaust his soul power for a long time. Hearing that, the two of them immediately moved. Especially Tang San. At this moment, the dark golden bat emperor was in a state of confusion, and it was the best time to attack. He didn't hesitate at all. The clear sky hammer in his hand directly smashed towards one of the heads. At the same time, the skull flashed with purple light, and a purple light pillar shot towards the middle bat head. It was the skull's soul skill, purple divine light, and Hulaina used her charm ability to support the harassment. Wang Feng threw out the god-slaying dagger again. At this moment, the dark golden bat emperor obviously couldn't dodge and was hit directly. The 3 heads instantly exploded. Following that, the entire body started to shrivel up rapidly, and then fell into the blood pool below. Seeing that their leader was killed, the rest of the blood-colored bats scattered. Only then was the ambush completely resolved. Tang San and Hulaina came back to their senses and inhaled the pure aura that Wang Feng was emitting. Tang San's blue-silver domain was released again, and the two of them felt refreshed. Activating a talent domain normally consumed a lot of soul power. Let's continue on our way. Wang Feng's low voice sounded again. Don't stop. The more we stay, the more dangerous it is. Tang San and Hulaina nodded. Although they had consumed a lot of soul power in this battle, they didn't use much of it. Basically, they only attacked seriously when the dark golden bat appeared. In this battle, the 3 of them played their own roles. The dark golden bat's special dark golden domain was something that the 3 of them didn't expect. If even a bat had such an ability, no one knew what would happen in the future. Wang Feng didn't expect this dark golden bat to be so strong, and it even had a talent domain. The 3 of them traveled forward at a constant speed, while slowly recovering. After this battle, Tang San and Hulaina trusted each other a little more. After all, they had fought side by side. As for the mysterious white-clothed Grim Reaper, he gave off an extremely mysterious feeling. He seemed to have no words to describe his uniqueness and power. However, it gave the 2 of them enough confidence. If it was just the 2 of them, the situation would probably be worse than imagined. The temperature around us is getting higher and higher, Tang San whispered. Hulaina nodded. Wang Feng was also silent for a moment. After walking for about 100 meters, they encountered the second wave of attacks. It was a group of mad flame crows, a powerful bird beast that lived in a fire-type environment. There were about 1,000 of them, and they were even stronger than the blood-colored bats. Among them, the mad flame crow king even had a cultivation of more than 30 to 40,000 years. But with the 3 of them working together, they managed to resist. Wang Feng used the black halo formed by the sharp blades to block a large portion of the cannon fodder soul beast. Only the strongest among them, the Mad Flame Crow King, could barely break in, but the three of them used the same trick and killed it instantly. This was the second wave of attacks. After this wave of attacks, Hulayina and Tang San were sweating a lot. The two of them planned to rest for a while. But before they could rest for half an hour, many exploding flame insects flew out from the blood pool below. Chapter 521. This was a type of flying insect that could self-explode. Their lifespan was less than a few years, but their reproduction speed was very fast. They only lived in hot environments, and when they encountered an enemy, they would self-explode, releasing a terrifying explosive force that was more than 10 times stronger than their own. They were densely packed and they covered the sky. These exploding flaming insects were much weaker than the previous two waves. They couldn't even compare to the cannon fodder soul beast. However, they posed a terrifying threat to the three of them. The explosive power of each insect could affect a range of 30 meters. It didn't seem big, but if there were a series of explosions, it would create a chain effect that would create an explosion range of hundreds of meters. In this wave, Wang Feng used his sharp blade to kill most of the exploding flaming insects, while Tang San used his hidden weapon to kill a small portion. Hulayina was the key. She used her seduction soul skill to change the trajectory of the exploding flaming insects' explosions. This reduced the impact of the explosion. However, after this wave, the small path in front of them was destroyed by the explosion for 100 meters. The huge barrier made the three of them stop in their tracks. 100 meters! Tang San looked at the small path in front of him and frowned. Even if he used his blue-silver grass to fling the two of them away, one of them would be left behind. Furthermore, his blue-silver grass couldn't cover such a long distance, so it couldn't form a bridge. 100 meters was too far. With their physiques, they couldn't cross such a distance. The explosion range of the exploding flaming insects was too large. Although Hulayina used her seduction soul skill to change the direction of the exploding flaming insects' explosions, the exploding flaming insects' explosions were too big. This prevented the three of them from being attacked by the hundreds of exploding flaming insects. However, the small path in front of them wasn't spared. "What should we do?" Hulayina muttered. "The temperature here is getting higher and higher. If we go back, we'll die. However, we can't cross such a long distance now." The two of them were silent. "I can fling the two of you over," Wang Feng said at this moment. He actually had two methods. The first was to activate second gear and hide his mysterious underworld armor. With his immense strength, he could easily fling the two of them over 100 meters away. However, this required their trust. If Wang Feng had any thoughts of betrayal, they would fall into the blood pond hell below. Furthermore, as the temperature continued to rise, the blood pool hell below was clearly not simple. Once he fell into it, even if Tang San's body was resistant to fire and he had swallowed 2 kinds of immortal herbs, it would be difficult for him to escape death. Furthermore, what if there were other powerful soul beasts in the blood pool? Do you have such great strength?" Hulayina could not help but ask. Soul skills couldn't be used in this place, so it was very difficult to throw someone more than 100 meters away. The main reason was that it was very difficult to find a foothold on this kind of small path, unlike on flat ground. "Even if you throw us over, what will you do?" Tang San asked after a moment of silence. Yes, even if Wang Feng threw the two of them over, what would he do? Could it be that he was going to throw himself away? "I have my ways," Wang Feng said calmly. Seeing this, Hulayina and Tang San were confused. "Don't hesitate. The 4th wave of attacks is coming soon. We don't even know how many waves there will be." Wang Feng's hoarse voice continued. The absurdity of Hell's Road somewhat exceeded Wang Feng's imagination. Wave after wave of attacks rained down relentlessly. and each wave was more dangerous than the last. Okay, I believe you. Tang San thought for a while and said decisively. If the white-clothed Grim Reaper really wanted to attack them, the two of them might be wiped out in the first wave of attacks. He wouldn't wait until now. Moreover, there was no other way now. Me too. Hulaina turned around and looked at Wang Wu, who was still dressed in white, with a little light in her beautiful eyes. The difficulty of Hell's Road seemed to be even more exaggerated than what her teacher said. If it were only her and Tang Yin, they would probably suffer a fatal blow when the dark golden bat domain was activated in the first round, and it would be even harder to say what would happen later. Now, she was full of trust in the white-clothed Grim Reaper, and she admired his mysterious and powerful strength. Furthermore, Hulaina was even more certain that this white-clothed Grim Reaper had most likely known the two of them before entering the City of Massacre. Okay then. Wang Feng and Hulaina exchanged positions and untied the rope around their waist. Then, he grabbed Tang San's shoulder and put away the sharp blade. The Xianming armor suddenly disappeared and second gear was temporarily activated. Following that, Wang Feng suddenly swung and threw Tang San out as if he was throwing a pebble. The terrifying force even caused a terrifying shockwave on the spot. Tang San directly drew a parabola in midair, and in the end, Tang San used the ghost shadow perplexing track to land safely on the opposite side of the road. The whole process only took a few seconds. When Tang San was thrown, he didn't even have time to react when he felt a strong force coming from behind and throwing him out. That feeling was as if it was a few times stronger than the pressure of a waterfall that was hundreds of meters high. Quick! The road on the ground is going to crack. Wang Feng walked to Hulaina's side, grabbed her shoulder, and was about to throw her out. Wait, Wang Wu, what are you going to do? Hulaina's heart tightened and asked with concern, how are you going to come over later? It's none of your business. After Wang Feng finished speaking, he directly threw Hulaina out as if he was throwing a basketball. Because of the great force, the road under Wang Feng's feet almost had countless cracks and was on the verge of cracking. It was difficult for Hulaina to maintain her balance when she fell from a parabola. However, a tail suddenly stretched out from behind her. That foxtail was more than 5 meters long and covered with sharp thorns. It looked extremely hard. After releasing the tail, Hulaina's body seemed to have regained balance. When she landed on the ground, her tail first pierced into the road, and then, with the soft elastic force of the tail, she unloaded the huge force when she fell and bounced to the other side. That was how she landed perfectly. After landing, Hulaina and Tang San looked at Wang Feng on the opposite side and waited quietly. At this time, because Wang Feng used too much force, the road he was on began to collapse, and the road behind him also began to collapse. Seeing this, Hulaina and Tang San's hearts sank slightly. What should we do? Hulaina looked at Tang San behind her. Are we just going to leave like this? Tang San shook his head. The god of death in white helped him. How could he just leave like this? Is there any way? Hulaina racked her brains. It seems that we can't help him at all now. It was too difficult to cross such a long distance and they couldn't fly. Now we'll guard here in case there are more attacks. Tang San said in a deep voice, I believe that he should have a way. But as soon as he finished speaking, the road on the opposite side began to collapse crazily. What can he do? Hulaina was a little anxious. At this moment, Wang Feng moved. Because of the collapse of the road, he first took a few steps back. Then, he charged forward and jumped up directly at the moment when the road under his feet collapsed. Seeing this, Hulaina and Tang San were slightly startled. Jumping over directly? It was impossible to just rely on physical fitness, wasn't it? After all, leaving someone so far behind and jumping so far were two completely different things. A shot put could be thrown more than 20 meters, but a person couldn't jump so far. If he used soul skills, he could do it. But he couldn't use soul skills now. Wang Feng indeed couldn't jump so far, But when he jumped into the air, he thought of something. 20 sharp blades, in a trapezoidal shape, appeared at the landing point under Wang Feng's feet every few meters. Wang Feng gently stepped on the sharp blade with his toes, borrowed the force, and quickly jumped on the second sharp blade, and then repeated the cycle. From a distance, it seemed that he walked down the stairs easily. Seeing this scene, Tang San was dumbfounded and couldn't help but have an idea in his mind. Could it be like this? P.S. Thank you for your concern. I'm a little drunk today, so I only typed 2 pictures. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. I wish you a reunion with your family on New Year's Eve. From tomorrow onwards, I can only update at least 5 times. From February 1st, I will be able to update 10 times. Dear readers, please bear with me. Chapter 522. Wang Feng could jump a few meters with a light tap of his toes on the stairs formed by the sharp blade. If the path behind him collapsed, he could still jump tens of meters. However, if Wang Feng didn't have any other methods, he wouldn't be able to control the distance behind him. Therefore, he thought of an alternative way of using the sword flight technique. Wang Feng remembered that the sword Douluo could use sword flight. However, the sword Douluo did not use his spiritual power. Instead, he used his soul power. He was a titled Douluo, and his soul power had reached a terrifying level. He could control the sword to bear the weight of a soul master. In addition, the sword Douluo's martial soul was the 7 kills sword. The mysterious underworld spike was not a martial soul. It was a soul bone. However, after refining it, there was a connection between the soul bone and the body. If Wang Feng wanted to use sword flight, his spiritual power would not be strong enough. The sword formed by the mysterious underworld spike would not be able to bear his weight. It would also be very unstable. However, Wang Feng could levitate the sharp blades in midair and use them to jump. This was the second method that Wang Feng thought of. However, Wang Feng had not tested this method before. In theory, it was much more dangerous than just throwing it over. This was because the control of the sharp blades was related to one's spiritual power. If there was a slight mistake in his spiritual power, he could miss a step and fall. Therefore, Wang Feng did not let Tang San and Hu Laina try this method. If something happened, he would not be able to save them. If something happened to Wang Feng, he could use the black wings of the Dark Angel to fly up. However, his identity would be exposed. Of course, there was another reason to show off. The distance between the sharp blades was not far. Wang Feng did not expect to use this method for the first time. If my spiritual power becomes stronger, at this moment Wang Feng suddenly thought, can I create lotuses with every step? The mysterious underworld spike would automatically form under his feet with every step. He didn't want to borrow the force to jump. Although it was a little cool, if he walked over slowly, with the Xian Ming thorn growing a lotus flower under his feet with every step, wouldn't it be more pretentious? Forget it, I will be beaten up if I do that. This is such a dangerous place, and you're still walking around leisurely? Wang Feng secretly shook his head. He stepped on the sharp blade, and in a few ups and downs, he quickly swept across the remaining dozens of meters. Then, he landed on the small path and said softly, "Don't waste time. Let's go." The 2 of them. This incomparably novel method clearly caused Tang San and Hu Laina to be somewhat shocked. It was probably an unexpected but reasonable feeling. Both of them had seen each other kill people with their weapons, but they had never thought that they could also fly with their weapons. However, the 2 of them could clearly sense that the white-clothed Grim Reaper's spiritual power was extraordinarily strong, and his soul power was also somewhat special. A sharp blade that was half a meter long and as thin as a cicada's wing was suspended in the air. It was not that simple to catch a person's weight. They could clearly see that when the white-clothed Reaper fell, the sharp blade sank a little. In other words, it couldn't carry a person for a long time. However, to be able to continuously step on the ground without falling was already a feat. After Wang Feng arrived, the three of them did not stop and continued walking. The path probably led downward in a circular fashion. The three of them were not slow at all. They had already passed through 3 shockwaves. The further down they went, the stronger the ferocious blood aura in the blood pool became. The murderous aura could slightly resist the ferocious blood aura, and Tang San's blue-silver domain could also resist it. However, the domain was constantly open, which consumed a lot of soul power and spiritual power. Fortunately, Wang Feng's aura could also weaken the ferocious blood aura, so the three of them were not corroded by the ferocious blood aura after walking for so long. After walking for about 500 meters, the 4th wave of attacks came. This wave of attacks was stronger than the previous 3. It was a type of phoenix tail bloodgoose that could spit out blood mist. There were about 60 of them flying 100 meters away, and their average cultivation was about 10,000 years. However, there was no leader. Moreover, they did not attack. They just kept spitting out blood mist that was as thick as blood and screeched violently. These beasts were getting more and more cunning. The blood mist was not poisonous, but as long as one breathed in it, a murderous intent would be aroused in one's body. The more one breathed in, the harder it was to resist. Even if Tang San activated his blue-silver domain, it would be difficult to resist. Even Wang Feng did not have a good way to attack these phoenix tail bloodgeese, because they were too far away and could not attack them at all. Fortunately, the blood mist did not directly harm them. It only aroused the murderous intent in their bodies. For Wang Feng, it did not affect him at all. However, for Hu Laina and Tang San, it was very troublesome. It was more troublesome than directly attacking them. Not only could the blood mist arouse the murderous intent in their bodies, but it could also affect one's mind and numb one's spirit. The blood mist was very thick and contained water. It was very difficult to avoid it. It came from all directions and penetrated all openings. In the blood mist, "Hold on a little longer," Wang Feng said in a deep voice. These phoenix tail bloodgeese can't keep spitting blood mist. They should retreat automatically after they finish. Similar to what Wang Feng said, the blood mist came at the cost of the phoenix tail bloodgeese's own blood aura. After a few minutes, the phoenix tail bloodgeese were exhausted and retreated while squawking. After the three of them broke through the blood mist, Tang San and Hu Laina both took deep breaths of air. Both of them were covered in blood mist. Although they used their soul power to form a shield just now, the blood mist was very permeable. It could even corrode and penetrate their soul power shields. There was a faint bloody light in their eyes. Tang San was slightly better, but Hu Laina's skin was starting to turn a faint pink. At this moment, there was not only the murderous intent in their minds, but also the murderous aura in this place. It was attacking their minds. Wang Feng grabbed both of their shoulders and absorbed the murderous intent and murderous aura in their bodies. After about a minute, the two of them finally recovered. Otherwise, if they continued like this, it would not be long before they went crazy. "How much soul power do you have left?" Wang Feng asked. 40%, Hu Laina whispered. After 4 consecutive waves of attacks, they either used the power of their soul bones or used their soul power to resist the attack. The consumption was not small. About 50%, Tang San released his blue-silver domain again and enveloped the three of them, reducing the pressure from the blood mist. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The murderous intent and murderous aura in their bodies were too strong. He could use his dark angel to absorb them. However, the consumption of spiritual power and the effect of soul power could not be resisted. "My guess is," at this moment Wang Feng whispered, "I'm afraid there will be at least 10 waves of attacks." End of chapter. That you're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.